Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however, whenever, wherever you may be listening. Welcome back to the We Are Family podcast. It's week 2 of the NFL season, and is it week 3 or week 4
3,
technically of college
technically
football?
week 4, yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a lot to discuss. First of all, we want to welcome back our other podcast hosts. Last night it was just me and Nate with a special guest in Brian Cashman. Shout out to Brian Cashman. But Jake Bell Jr. here at Point Park, also sports communication, is back with us on the We Are Family podcast full time. He's ready to go. Welcome back, Jake.
Thank you. I may not be Brian Cashman, but I'm glad to be back. It's going to be a lot of fun this year.
It can't be done without you. It can't be done without you.
I appreciate it.
We love Brian Cashman for filling in, but we need Jake Bell here as much as possible. So, Jake, since it's your first episode in the CMI, I have 2 college football knowledge phenoms next to me. So I want to get into some college football. We haven't in a long time. So I want to hear your thoughts on. There's one specific team I know that you want to rant about, and this is your time to shine, sir. This is your opportunity.
I cannot wait. The only times I've really truly ranted about this team was through Snapchat on my private story, as you guys have seen.
Oh, the Jake Bell private story. If you're a friend of Jake Bell's on Snapchat, it's one of the great private stories.
I don't post there often. Whenever I do, I never miss. So, but first, I would like to talk about the team that nearly lost to an FCS program, and got beat pretty bad against Nebraska in Colorado. It just looked ugly, and I just want to kind of, address the whole situation about Colorado and their advances in college football. So think of like a dysfunctional restaurant. The restaurant turnover is going to be bad. It's just a lot of dysfunction, a lot of people not wanting to be there. That's what Deion Sanders has made this Colorado team. And I understand what he inherited was bad. He's going to have to grab a lot of guys. I understand. But whenever it's the point of this is his second year as a Colorado head coach, and this could be incomplete. There could be more players on here. But according to 24/7, they have brought in
sources.
Yeah. Yes.
Sources.
They have brought in 43 transfers.
Mm-hmm.
Just think of an NFL roster.
You.
Yeah. Think of an NFL roster. There's a 53-man roster. They brought in 43 guys. Guess how many people left?
40.
41.
Well, day one, he said, y'all, I can't do a Deion. I have to work on a Deion impression, but y'all ain't going to be here, all right? Yeah. I'm just telling y'all right now. And he said that day one.
Yeah. And I mean, he also has to understand, he played football long enough. You need to have chemistry to succeed. Look at that Pitt squad in 2021. All those guys played, 3 or 4 years together.
Yep.
And they combined to have a really great season. If you have so much turnover, you might start getting things going, the 4th and 5th game. Look at Keelan Slovis. He didn't really start getting it going until the second half of the year. We're already, 4-3 or whatever, and it's okay, we don't have any hopes in the ACC at that point. And it's just you need chemistry. You need to have guys that play years together, and that's just not what Colorado wants. And they're talking about how bad the line is. If you have a new starting 5 offensive linemen every single year, that's just how it's going to be. And I don't know if you guys have watched, what's it called, Kitchen Nightmares. And there's this episode where it's called, this lady called Amy, her restaurant's called ABC. She had a restaurant turnover of 50 to 100 staff within the first 6 months. That's what Colorado has been. That dysfunction, yeah. And so we'll also talk just a little bit about Shedeur Sanders. He's just been a bad teammate. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts around it. I'll do another Pitt reference again. Whenever Eli Holstein was talking about, his struggles in the first half against Cincinnati, what was the first thing he said?
It was on me.
Yes.
Yeah.
He told Narduzzi, he said, that's never going to happen again. He's told the whole conference, that's on me, or the whole press conference.
I'm sure it'll happen again, but but that's not the point.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
I mean, that's showing
we
leadership.
saw that with Phil Dracovic,
Yes.
the opposite.
Yes.
He didn't take any responsibility.
Correct. Yeah, and for Holstein's sake, he's a redshirt freshman speaking like a true leader. This is Shedeur Sanders' 4th season in college football. He's saying, Dylan Raiola had all this time. He's just giving attitude. It's that's just the typical coach's kid, right?
Yep.
He's
he does have the coach's kid attitude.
Yeah.
And that isn't entirely his fault because he grew up with a superstar, and now the superstar dad is the head coach of his football program, and just Deion oversees everything. I mean, unless Dion just kind of has that cocky personality. Like I love Dion. I think he's I think he's fun. He's fun. Like, but you can't. I kind of lost my train of thought. But you can't just have your kid, you know, you can't spread that on to your kid and give your kid a sense of entitlement. And I think that's kind of the issue there. I haven't followed Shador as much, like, in what his attitude, but I'm telling you what, NFL teams are he's not gonna be a first round pick. If he doesn't, unless he has an amazing season, which he hasn't so far, he's not, like, teams are gonna pass on him. They are. They're not gonna want to deal with the Dion situation.
Yeah, I mean,
Dion is a distraction for NFL teams.
Absolutely.
He will be.
and Peyton, you sent me this a couple days ago. The thing about Deion Sanders saying that the Colorado band can't play on the touchdowns showed Shador Sanders his own personal music. That's
terrible.
crazy.
That's so
And
terrible.
and Shiloh Sanders, his other son, is also very similar in that he's obviously not the quarterback, so he doesn't get the big. He's not as good at his position, but he also has that kind of cocky nature. And I also want to talk about a couple Pitt players who went to Colorado and have not performed at all through 2 games. Deion Hayes and
Look
Sam
at this big grin
Okunlola.
on this
Yeah.
man's face.
It
He's
makes
so
me happy watching Nate Matlack get to the quarterback with ease, and then seeing Deion Hayes and
Well,
Okunlola struggles.
Both of them went from a
Wait,
defense.
who was the other player that went?
Sam Okunlola and Deion Hayes.
He
They're
had a,
both
he had a big forced
DNs,
fumble
right?
in the upset to Louisville. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is, and what's so ironic, they went from a defensive scheme that was so suited for them, right, as edge rushers, and they went from that to Colorado, where they're not getting any pressure. They're not in the game all the time, like they would be at Pitt. They're not even. Are they? They were starters. I don't know. I didn't see if they were starters actually,
Honestly, I couldn't tell. Yeah.
but I just.
I saw Hayes. I remember
Yeah.
because I
Hayes
watched
probably-
the Nebraska game. I saw Hayes.
But those are 2, like, I thought there was gonna be like huge losses, and they kind of had been for Pitt through 2 games, but they've just not produced like at all for Colorado, and they really needed it. I mean, Nebraska, they just, after the first half, even like with several minutes left in the second quarter, they just said, all right, we're done. They
Yeah.
just kind of
Right.
let their foot off the gas. I mean, it was 28-3 at halftime,
Yeah.
and they just didn't do it. They just like, we're just gonna run the ball a lot. So that is crazy, and they have no run game. Their run game's non-existent. Their O-line's not good. Like you mentioned, it's a great point, Jake, about how when you have so much turnover and no fluidity and no chemistry, that's what's gonna happen. And so it's a product of their own doing. So any failure they have this year, which I'm predicting they have a lot of, it will be a product of their own doing and their own ways with the transfer portal. I mean, again, the transfer portal you should utilize for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially in today's college
Like
football.
we've seen with
game.
Clemson, no transfers, and they're still a great program, but they're a notch below right now. But I mean, they had a great game
I think
last week. But
you see the difference between Dabo and Dion. It's like Dabo is too stubborn to use the transfer portal, and it's the opposite with Dion. Dion is too stubborn to actually recruit and develop players.
Yeah.
right.
He wants to win now, and that's what and I think that's the problem. Is Dion took over a 1-11 program, and he wanted his kids, and I call his kids even like his sons that aren't by, because he calls Travis Hunter his son, like all these guys he brought over from Jackson State. He wanted them to come over, be successful, and win. Now Travis Hunter is an exceptional player. He'll be fine, but he'll probably be a first-round pick. But you know, I think what I question with Dion is, like, did he really want to come over and build the program and actually win at Colorado, or did he want to win for his kids and the people that he brought over from Jackson State? Like, I really question, once Shiloh and Shador are off to the league, why is he going to stay at Colorado? Like, to
absolutely.
me, he gives the vibe of, like, he doesn't seem like a coach that's going to want to stick around and be patient. And now, in Dion's defense, I think, you know, to that point, he did inherit a 1-11 squad. He did have to
Right.
get rid of a lot of players because they had a lot of bad players. But you have to recruit and develop at the same time. And you have to have a team chemistry. It can't just be the Shiloh and Shador and Travis Hunter show. And I think he has qualities of a coach. I really do. But another thing is the jump from Jackson State to Colorado. I mean, you're facing elite coaches. I mean, we forget, like, yeah, well, we say, oh, they're college football coaches, but like these coaches are elite to get to where they are. There are only so many jobs like this in the United States, and he's facing a coach like Matt Rule, who is the definition of rebuilding programs. That guy knows what he's doing, and I want to talk about Nebraska a little bit, but when you're facing guys like Matt Rule and your team chemistry's kind of off, you're not detail oriented on defense, and that's the thing with Deion. I thought, oh, you know what? They're bringing over all these guys on offense, and Deion's, he played corner. You'd think he'd be a good defensive coach, but just because you play corner doesn't mean that you're gonna have good schemes. And obviously, I don't know who their defensive coordinator is, and I don't know if Deion actually runs the defense or what he does, but their defense is just terrible. I mean, they have such poor fundamentals. They're just not well. They're not well coached. They're not well coached.
You know their defensive coordinator is?
Who is their defensive coordinator?
Former Giants head coach Pat Shermer.
Oh, you know what? I think I
that.
remember seeing that.
He's their defensive
Pat Shermer.
coordinator. Because I was watching the game last
see, that's
week.
surprising. Like, to me, that's just like, it's just Deion is just kind of running a circus. But now, to be fair, Deion, he's only been there for a year. Like, if he could change the course, if he maybe once his sons go to the league, and if he actually can focus on the program and not his kids. But I question if he really is going to want to coach. I mean, he's a spontaneous guy. I mean, him getting into coaching was kind of spontaneous. It's not like he had coaching experience, really, I don't think. So it's just kind of like, he seems like the kind of guy who's going to be in and out.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're playing NCAA and you're inheriting, like, a team that went 1-11, you're going to bring in a bunch of your guys. That's just how it is. But you also stick with them.
Right.
I mean, I know college football is way different from playing NCAA football game. At the same time, I mean, you can't just grab all your guys and say, "Oh, no, this isn't working. Let's bring a whole new 40 people." Like that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate thing. I think he can build a team to be really good if he's patient, but the fact of the matter is he hasn't
been patient since day one.
Exactly. So you just don't know. So
and the crazy part about it is that last year they won those first two games and beating Nebraska badly. I mean, Nebraska just got their new coach, and then they beat TCU the first game of the season. Like, oh my gosh, Colorado! Look at Deion. Yep. And then we realized like their defense is just so bad, and they're poorly. There's a lot of distractions, and their fundamentals are poor.
Yep.
Just one thing on Travis Hunter, he is like crazy good. Though.
Yeah.
It's like
it's
I don't want to like just talk negative about Colorado and not like understate how good and how rare a talent Travis Hunter is. I mean, playing both sides of the ball and like every snap almost is just insane to think about.
Absolutely.
Just like the amount of like on your body, like the pressure and all that. It's just crazy. I mean, the tiring. How do you not get tired?
Yeah.
I mean, he probably does get tired, but he does a great job of masking that.
Yeah,
he does. I mean,
absolutely.
he's just a crazy talent.
And I think the big thing was once he goes to the combine and the draft process happens, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Do they have him as a two-way player? Or like, I mean, and to me it seems like it's impossible because football is such a physical sport. But if Ohtani can do that in baseball, like I don't think people realize how much of a toll that takes. Then I say it's possible he could do it in football. I think it's very possible. And I think a team high in the draft who has so many needs, if you could fill two needs with one pick, that would be something. I think it's highly unlikely, especially it's easier to get injured more injured in football, but it's definitely going to be one of the more interesting draft processes we've seen in a long time.
Well, and in the NFL, it's even more physical, and it's kind of the unfortunate reality of the NFL, but there are going to be, if he's on offense, defensive play callers, telling their guys, hey, try to mess him up, try to get him hurt, so he's not playing, on defense
be physical.
or whatever.
They're going to be like, hey, be physical with this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try to see what you could do, but I mean, I think it's unlikely, but I think it could happen.
It could be one of those things like the first 2 years they try it out, and if it doesn't work, then they just switch him to one position. I don't know what he's graded higher as a receiver or a DB.
Well, he's really good on defense.
I think he might be a better
He's
defender.
really good.
Honestly, he'd have more value if he were to start at cornerback, and say that doesn't work out. I'm sure a team would take the chance at him transitioning to receiver down the line. But I think if he starts as a cornerback, I mean, say he turns into a Jalen Ramsey type. I mean, that's probably a lot more valuable than, a really good receiver. Not saying a really good receiver isn't valuable, but having a lockdown corner, that totally elevates your defense. So.
Right, for sure.
Well, moving on from Colorado, I want to hear your thoughts on maybe some teams that have surprised or you, and maybe you think that are on the rise in general, and maybe some teams other than Colorado that are kind of disappointed this year. Now we've only played. There's really only been 2 weeks of the season,
Right.
so it's hard to say. But anything that sticks out to you?
Well, Notre Dame is going to be looking for a new head coach pretty soon. I think
Absolutely,
that is the
I
big
like Marcus
takeaway.
Freeman, too.
I like him too, but you cannot lose to Marshall at home.
Nope.
And like, if you do it once, it's bad at Notre Dame or really anywhere. But to do it again to Northern Illinois, who was not as good as I know they're ranked now, but that was just the kind of thing for the AP voters to say, hey, look, we ranked them now. Look at that. So they still have Notre Dame ranked because they were so high on them. They can't be wrong. They can never be wrong, these AP voters. But that's another story. But what was I talking about? But yeah, you can't. I think Marshall was more talented than Northern Illinois.
I think Marshall beat Pitt one year. Or we played Marshall. They gave us a. I mean, Marshall's
Something like
a decent.
that,
program.
Yeah, they are. But they were better. What was that? Was that 2 years ago?
I don't
that
know.
they beat Notre Dame, yeah.
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 And then they were better. I think Marshall was better 2 years ago than Northern Illinois is this year because
I agree.
like the MAC is just it's probably it's the most competitive league, but it's like the lowest.
Yeah,
in
Northern
terms of
Illinois. I mean,
competitiveness.
I remember them being like at the top of the standings. Like they have a
Yeah,
decent
yeah.
program, but
Yeah.
they were 28-point dogs, and I don't think they're. I mean, I think they're like picked to be third or fourth in the MAC. So they're not
Yeah,
all that good.
yeah.
they went like 6-6 last year or something. You know,
Yeah,
But like
they,
10 years ago, Jordan Lynch was a killer for them.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
that's right.
He was a Heisman
Yeah, maybe that's
contender.
what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Is like, Northern Illinois has had some good teams, but yeah,
Right.
that's unacceptable. I really like Marcus Freeman. I think he kind of fits the Notre Dame bill, but I think the problem with Notre Dame is Notre Dame, like they're just very outdated. It feels like every time there's a Notre Dame game, it's like they're playing in like the 90s. It's just like kind of like run the ball, play good defense. The offense just isn't that dynamic. The quarterback isn't that dynamic. And it's just kind of they just feel outdated. And I feel like part of that is, Notre Dame has to recruit based on based on academics.
Right.
And in today's game, academics have become less and less important. Guys can go anywhere, and I think that's made Notre Dame less of a threat. But I feel like they need to get like an offensive whiz in there. Because Marcus Freeman, I'm pretty sure he's like a defense special teams kind of guy.
Yeah, I think he is.
They need to get like an offensive whiz in there who can bring like a college style offense, kind of like what a Cade Bell, like just to make them more dynamic. And Riley Leonard, I mean, I thought he was going to be really good. And the thing is, they beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M. And then they come. I mean, I think it was just a complete letdown game. Like it was just a complete, and that happens in sports all the time. And now Marcus Freeman still has a chance to keep his job. But he's gonna have to basically go win 10 games even if he wins 10, he might lose his job.
Yeah,
but if he has to win pretty much every game, and their schedule is pretty easy. But they got to play USC at the end of the year.
They got to play Louisville too. Who
Yep.
looks really good through two. I mean, they played bad teams, but
Yeah.
through 2 weeks.
Thoughts on Notre Dame?
Honestly,
or are
like-
there another team?
So yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about Notre Dame. Honestly, like I know you liked Riley Leonard. I thought he was a little overrated, just a little bit. I mean,
I think
he's a
he
good
is.
quarterback.
He
Like
is.
he's
He's a good
proven-
college
Yeah,
guy, but he's
exactly,
not
yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
no one's gonna be drafting him high.
And honestly, like Notre Dame would probably accomplish more going and starting one of the guys that they recruited in the first place. A Pitt decommit, Kenny Minchie,
Minchie,
right?
yeah.
You remember him? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that
that
would
was
be a
tough.
guy you'd at least take a chance at. I mean, he could start the season 0-2. Like, so. But I also want to talk about Texas A&M. They're a team like I've been disappointed in for a while. The team that lost to Notre Dame. A former pick, Solomon DeShields. He didn't get a single snap for them one game. He was our starting linebacker. He was going to be a main focus on the defense for us. Hasn't gotten even a snap. So as we've seen with a bunch of these recruits, the grass isn't always greener. But yeah, Texas A&M. I mean, I like that they're sticking with Connor Weigman, their quarterback. I mean, he's the guy they recruited. He's a 5-star
he
guy.
looked pretty
He
bad.
did look pretty bad. He did. I agree.
I was like, I don't know who this guy
Yeah.
is.
He
He's
did
a
look pretty bad.
5-star.
He was a former 5-star. Yeah.
He was like all right last year.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
But
I
it's-
mean, I respect them sticking with him. Obviously, they might have to go a different direction if he doesn't improve. But like, I forget which class it was, but they recruited like 3 or 4 defensive linemen that were like 5-star recruits, like the top, 4 of the top 5 defensive linemen in the country. and like a bunch of them transferred. They're like legal, all this stuff, and it's like I thought Texas A&M had a chance to have a good stint like with Kellen Mond in 2020, almost taking them to a playoff, and it just didn't translate into anything more than just that. So I'm a little disappointed.
Well, I remember Texas A&M getting. I remember Texas A&M getting the Duke coach.
Yeah.
But I kind of forgot about that, and then I remembered when I was watching. I was like, they fired Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher is a national championship coach, and Texas A&M wasn't bad with him. They weren't at all. I mean, I know they didn't like. I mean, Texas A&M's never really been close to winning a national championship, so I don't know what they're trying to like get at. But I don't get how moving off Jimbo Fisher like helps their program. Jimbo Fisher's a very well-respected coach. I mean, you guys might have more insight on this.
Yeah, there was issues just like failing to reach expectations. The expectations were higher for Texas A&M.
What is the expectation?
National championships with.
When did they ever come close? With Johnny Manziel,
maybe,
but they still didn't.
Their recruiting. I mean, they had the number 1 ranked recruiting class. I think it was of top 2 at least, something like that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And they were not. I mean, it was just, and they went like 7-5. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
Did they go 7? I feel like they did better, but maybe I'm wrong.
One year they went 7-5, and then last year, I don't remember. They were like 7-5 again or something.
I remember Zach Calzada, like in 2021, he upset Alabama, but I don't think.
Yeah, that was like
they won maybe 8 games, but I could be
wrong.
That was before
they've been
they
like
followed those guys.
7 and 8 around, but I just want to say with I'm gonna touch on both Notre Dame and Texas A&M, but I want to go back to Notre Dame because they need to, recruit and with the quarterbacks they have, like actually start that quarterback. Every year now, they're just bringing in a transfer. Like last year, I thought it was a great move, actually, Sam Hartman. And he was like all right, but he didn't really raise the ceiling, it felt like.
Yeah.
And Riley Leonard's not as good as Sam Hartman was, especially throwing the ball. They don't have a passing touchdown yet this year through 2 games. And when he's not able to run, it makes this and they're not as talented at the wide receiver and really running back position that they should be at Notre Dame. Their defense is good as always, but they have some issues there for sure. They need to, like you said, Jake, I was going to mention that dude, Kenny Minchie.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he was still there because he was a former 4-star, right? And he was a Pitt commit, and I was really upset and saddened that he transferred to Notre Dame because I thought he was going to be really good.
I thought so, too.
And I thought he was going to be the bridge from Kenny Pickett, right?
He'd be starting now. We wouldn't even have Holstein.
So maybe it maybe worked out for the better, actually.
Yeah.
But I might as well. I mean, if you lose another game, might as well just, and you're not able to pass the ball, just give Kenny Minchie a chance and see. Because I don't. You cannot make the play. I don't care. I know they're not in a conference, so they can't be top 4 seed. They weren't going to be top 4 seed anyway. Yeah. But they'd have to win every game remaining. I don't see that happening. But I don't think you let Notre Dame. I don't think they should get an exception for playing a softer schedule, going 11-1 or 10-2 and losing to Northern Illinois. I don't think they're a top 12 team this year. So,
yeah, I was actually I completely overestimated how good. I thought Texas A&M had some decent teams the last couple of years, but they did not. 2018, 19, 20, Jimbo Fisher had decent years. Orange Bowl, won the Texas Bowl, won the Gator Bowl. But since 2021 they won 8 games. But 2022 was a disaster, 5-7. 2023, last year they went 6-6, won a bowl game. They lost. I'm sorry, they went 7-5 last year, lost the Texas Bowl. So, yeah, Texas A&M did not do well under. See, Texas A&M has some work to do. That's for sure. I think one team that I mentioned them before that's I think is very an interesting watch, and I think is going to give teams a lot of problems this year. They may not be they're probably not a college football playoff team, but I think they're at least ranked by the end of the year. Is Nebraska with this? Well, first of all, you have Matt Rule, who you want a textbook on how to rebuild a football program? Matt Rule knows what he's doing.
He did with Temple and Baylor. I mean, he's real good.
And you're already seeing. I mean, they dominated Colorado. For Colorado's faults, Colorado has a lot of talent, and they just beat the crap out of them.
They have more talent than Nebraska.
That's what I'm saying.
Other
and they
than
beat
quarterback
the crap.
position, I think Dylan Raiola might be better than Shador. I mean, you can make the argument, but
and that's what I want to talk about. This Raiola kid. I mean, I remember hearing about him before he even went to college. Before, when he was in high school, I remember he was I don't know how it went, but he he was recruited to Ohio State, then he went to Georgia or something. He was going to go to Georgia. It was
Yeah.
vice versa. And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, out of nowhere, I think he had
There were
someone
some
in
weird
his
things.
family
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
connection in
I think
Nebraska.
Matt Rule, I think, helped too. Like that combination.
and
I
tha-
think
and then he
was-
ended up at Nebraska, and this
Yeah.
kid was the number one recruit in the country. Or
Yeah.
he was top 5 at least.
He was the second behind, I think, the Florida quarterback DJ Lagway, who's been starting some games.
Oh, we
since
got
that
to talk
emerged.
about Florida too because that Texas A&M Florida this
Yeah.
week, Billy Napier might
Talk
be if
about
they lose
bad
that game,
I
he
think-
might
I
be.
think-
Talk about
I mean,
bad
I'll just say
teams.
early, I think Florida will win that game, but we'll see.
I
They
like
they
them
looked
too.
bad at Miami.
They
I-
did, yeah.
but
But that was also with Graham Mertz.
Is it
so.
at Florida?
Yeah, it's Florida's at home.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a high stakes game.
Napier, I think he's done. Or Napier, whatever his name is. But anyway, Nebraska, this quarterback, he's only a freshman. But, I mean, he's a top 5 recruit for a reason. He looks the part. And, he literally looks and tries to model his game. His appearance
Patrick
and his
Mahomes.
actual game after Patrick Mahomes. And obviously, the kid isn't, no one is Patrick Mahomes. And this kid isn't going to be Patrick Mahomes as a freshman, but the fact that you model your game after someone like that and you have a great coach and a program that's on the rise, I think Nebraska's going to have one of their better years they've had in a long time because they have disappointed now for so long.
Yeah,
so long.
Scott Frost. I mean, he was supposed to be this big hire out of UCF, and it just didn't work out.
No.
So.
No.
Well, I mean, you look at their schedule. There is
Their
a
schedule is probably tough.
realistic. Well,
Yeah.
no.
Is it or is it not tough?
There is a realistic chance they go. I think they're at Ohio State, but they play Ohio State 8-0. They have a lot of
That would be
very
interesting.
winnable games.
Imagine that
Really?
Ohio
Yeah.
State, Nebraska.
They got the
With-
worst
The
team.
thing is, with the Big Ten being bigger and some of these other conferences being bigger, you can draw a really tough schedule and you can draw a really
Yeah.
easy schedule. It depends on who you're playing. I mean, because the chances of you playing a certain team are lower
yeah.
because there's more teams.
Well, I also wanted to talk about Dylan Raiola. He pretty much went through.
He looks poised,
Yeah, he
man.
does. Yeah, and he went through a path I think a lot of these top quarterbacks are going to realize they have to go to with the transfer portal. Going to instead of going to the Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, wherever he could have went to, he went to Nebraska. And I know there are a bunch of reasons for that, but I feel like a lot of these top quarterbacks are going to realize early on, hey, if I go to Ohio State and have to go through the transfer portal after one season, like a lot of these guys have to do, I mean, look at
Look,
Eli
it happens
Holstein.
to everybody.
Yeah. Why not just go to that 8-win school that might not have been ranked in a few years and start right away, and help build that program? I think that's going to make college football a lot more interesting and a lot more competitive, and I think it'll be really cool. I mean, Nebraska getting one of the top quarterbacks in the country. When was the last time that happened? Probably before recruit sites were even a thing, or
Yeah.
you even had 5-star recruits that you could see. It's really cool, and I hope that happens more.
And they need
So-
to get back to prominence because they have one of the better fan bases in all of college
yeah.
football.
I was going to say
Absolutely.
Nebraska
They
used
sell out
to
every
be a
game.
powerhouse.
Yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
feel not. I mean, the thing is, it's Nebraska. There's no other sports in Nebraska other
Yeah.
than the University of Nebraska.
Don't,
I mean,
don't sleep on
those
Creighton.
fans are
Creighton
those fans
University.
love
That is a good basketball team. For sure.
those fans love Nebraska
Yeah.
football, and it would be nice to see it return to form. And I think Raiola saw that opportunity. He was smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, Nate. Northern Iowa, Illinois, who they were hanging in there with somebody.
They beat Kansas.
Yeah,
Who
they're
they
always a
beat-
weird
they beat
team, yeah.
Kansas.
That was
So
a weird
could be
game.
a
Yeah,
tough
they
game.
they always find a way to stay in games. It's weird. I can't
Purdue.
understand.
Remember they beat Penn State in triple
Yeah.
overtime.
Yeah.
One year it was the worst game
And
ever.
Purdue beat Iowa that same year by 20, and they were supposed to be
The Big Ten West is
yeah.
Nebraska,
R.I.P.
Rutgers, Indiana, and then Ohio State.
yeah.
And then they play UCLA. Although UCLA ain't that good this year. USC tough. Wisconsin's that's always tough, and Iowa it's the big boys. My dad calls them the big boys. You can't bet against Iowa. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think what other teams.
But can we talk about Florida a little bit?
Florida,
because
sure.
They
And then
have a,
we have to move on to Pitt.
yeah,
We
yeah,
have
yeah.
to move on to
Yeah,
talk
because
some
that
Pitt
game's
football.
going to be awesome. But
Yeah.
Florida is a mess right now. They are one of the better brands in college football. We all know that. And they are not performing. They're recruiting still very well, but they're not performing to the level that they should be. and Graham Mertz is not. I mean, I thought he was like.
He's a bum.
Well,
Yeah, I thought he was bad at Wisconsin.
Well, he was really bad at Wisconsin, and I didn't like the transfer to Florida. I was like, why is Florida?
Yeah.
That showed kind of they were desperate, really, at quarterback. And he was like better than I thought he would be last year. Actually, he wasn't like great,
Yeah.
but he was like capable at least.
Yeah, you had 20 passing touchdowns
Yeah.
and 3 picks. Like that's not
They
horrible.
still
you know what I
weren't
mean?
a good
So-
team,
I think
but
Ayugo Lungolole had that number.
Yeah,
but it's
exactly. Yeah,
you have to look
that's-
like
exactly.
the touchdown interception ratio in college is not as important
I
as it is
agree.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
right.
Especially with all these garbage teams you play, you have to look at the completion percentage and the
Yeah.
passer rating and the QBR and all of that.
Right. But so now this week, Florida, Texas A&M, obviously massive game for both teams.
Yeah.
For Mike Elko, the pressure is much more on Billy Napier. Mike
Yeah.
Elko obviously just getting there, but still, all the talent on Texas A&M. I think I saw like a composite rank of just overall talent based on recruiting rankings and everything, and they were like they're like top 10
Yeah.
somewhere. We all know that they were even higher last year, and they went 7-5, like you mentioned, Payne. But they have a quarterback battle right now, and I think they should give DJ Lagway a chance.
I think so too.
And I think they
really do.
might. I think they might actually, just with such a big game for Billy Napier. Now it's really not a good position to be in because he's a freshman, right?
He's a true freshman. He's in the same class as Raiola. Like they were.
Okay,
And
yeah.
and Raiola was ranked under this kid.
According to 24/7,
Lagway.
I'm sure in some
I've
other
heard that
sites,
name,
Raiola
yeah.
has been ranked higher, but yeah, Lagway has.
Yeah, I think.
Graham Mertz. I mean, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florida's not going to be a good team this year. You might as well see what you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
I
and
agree.
they need this win, and their schedule is definitely like the toughest. If you
Yeah.
look at, they have
Brutal.
they had Sanford last week, but they got no easy games really. Although the SEC, the top is still really good, but the middle is a little bit underwhelming so far.
Yeah.
We've seen like South Carolina look really bad against Old Dominion, but then beat Kentucky,
They
who
beat
look
the
really
crap
good out of
Kentucky.
Kentucky looked really good against Southern Miss, then really bad. It's like weird, and I don't think Missouri's as good as 6. I think there's a little bit of overvaluing of the SEC, but I think Ole Miss is definitely a really good team. Alabama, they should have no trouble with Wisconsin this weekend.
The thing
but-
with college football is it's tough to say in the early season because, I mean, you see this in the NFL, but especially with college football because these are kids, right?
Right.
And if you have good coaching, you expect them to be better, to get better each week, and see a lot of improvement from week 0 or week 1. They don't call it week 0. That's high school football. Week 1, or maybe they do. Do they call it week 0? I don't even know. But anyway, from the beginning of the season to the end, right? You want to see massive improvement, especially for like these teams that, you know, need a lot of work, like Florida and Texas A&M. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The other team I wanted to mention, as it's on the rise, I think they're a playoff team. I really do. Is USC. I mean, no
That'd be interesting.
one saw them coming because it was like, oh, their defense. But like, if their defense can just be competent, like even slightly below average, because their defense was so bad with Caleb Williams. If their defense could be competent, this Miller Moss kid looks like the real deal. Lincoln Riley, I mean, he creates so many great quarterbacks in college. Like, that's
Yeah.
what he does. He has a great system. This Miller Moss kid, I mean, he's a high
I like him
recruit.
a lot. Yeah.
Looks like the real deal.
Yeah.
Might be one of the best. Well, Caleb might be a better prospect than Baker or I mean, well, they were number 1 picks. So I can't. Yeah, maybe I'm over, but it depends on the QV class, of
Yeah.
course. But if their defense looked just the fundamentals against LSU, it was just so much better. It's like if they could just do that and be a more physical team, their offense is going to be great. Like, that's a playoff team. I mean, Oregon looks pretty bad. Or
Yeah.
wait.
They're
They're in
kinda
the
like-
Big Ten now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oregon,
they're kind of weird. Yeah.
Oregon doesn't look all that
Gotta
good.
figure out which. It's
I know, I'm
still-
like,
it's-
still like,
we're all still, and now
Yeah.
obviously the news with some of those state teams
Yeah.
moving from the Mountain West to the Pac-12.
So
The
the
Pac-12
Pac-12's
was
coming back.
reborn.
I like
Pac-12 is
that.
basically playing Mountain West teams anyway this year.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like whatever.
But like it's like Lincoln Riley. I love Lincoln Riley. If their defense can just be like it was against LSU, they don't have to set the world on fire. But like that's a playoff team
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, let's move on to Pitt. I mean, you know me. I'm obviously a Pitt fan. Not as big of a Pitt fan as you guys, I don't think. But well, I mean, I've been watching Pitt for a long time, but I'm not very high on this team this year, especially like after last year. The defense is still really bad. The quarterback situation is better, Like this Holstein, he has a lot of potential, but he's still having trouble reading the field. You know, there's going to be a lot of growing pains with him. Just like what have you seen? What are some encouraging things, discouraging things you guys have seen thus far with Pitt? I mean, they got destroyed for almost 3 quarters by a Cincinnati team that's going to be at the bottom of the barrel in the Big 12. And then Cade Bell and Holstein pulled magic out of their hat. By the way, Cade Bell, special. He's going to be going places. Yep. I mean, his offense for his college offense, it's so many teams are going to be interested in that. He could be a head coach at some point. He kind of looks like a young head coach. But yeah, just what you've seen so far, what your expectations are for Pitt right now.
Well, I do want to start on Cade Bell. So I know putting up 28 points at Cincinnati doesn't seem all that great compared to, we having to come all the way back and not scoring much. But if you look at the film, there were guys wide open.
No, that wasn't on Cade Bell.
Yeah,
it was on Holstein.
Absolutely.
Holstein looked like Jerkovic for 2.5 quarters.
Absolutely. I mean, he had guys wide. So, like, Cade Bell knows what he's doing. He knows how to exploit the defense.
He might be one of the best offensive coordinators we've had here.
Yeah. And one thing that, makes me real pumped up about this team, and I'm sure you guys have seen it on my story too, all these guys just every time one of their teammates is shown up on some kind of, recognition for how well they did, every one of their teams posting about it. Like, I haven't seen that from Pitt teams in a while. And I think it's cool. Like, all these guys are trying to rally with each other. And will we, win 10 games? No. I think we could win 7 or 8, which is a massive improvement from last year.
If they win 8 games, that would be incredible.
I think they could.
I don't see that happening. Their defense is too bad.
But the thing about their defense is they have a lot of guys that are new, like that haven't started much. I like Rylan Gandy a lot. Should he be our number 1 corner? Probably not. But I like him a lot. Rashad Battle has had his struggles, but he's also coming off 2 major injuries. So I think patience with this defense is going to help. But, like, I just think their front seven's too talented. I think they're a very underrated
we
part
lost
of this
guys
team.
in the front 7.
We did,
That's
but
the thing.
But we also added guys like Nate Matlack. We added 3 defensive linemen as well on top of that. I mean, I think
Nate Matlack from? Is he's off the edge?
He's Kansas State. He's an edge rusher. Yeah.
Okay.
But we brought in guys. I mean, Nakai Johnson's finally started. I think this is a lot more talented of a front 7 than we realize. And I think as long as they can hold down the running game. I mean, I think this defense is bound to improve. I know it didn't look good at all the first 2 games, but I think it will improve for sure. Narduzzi likes his corners on islands. We all know that. I mean, you could say what you want about that, but I feel like once these guys start learning how to play in that system, I think they'll be able to buckle down more. Will they be great? No. Will they be good? I don't know. But I think they'll be better than they displayed the first 2 games for sure.
I think Narduzzi knows how to dial up plays, like in key situations. But I am a big Narduzzi critic, and I think it's because I don't think he gets enough
criticism.
Thank you. He doesn't get enough criticism because I think he's a good recruiter. He's a good culture builder, but Pitt has done a lot of there's been some things over the years that's so undisciplined.
Yeah, I agree.
And his defensive scheme, he never makes adjustments. And what really irritates me is like the end of the first quarter of the Cincinnati game. They're getting torched on defense, and he's like, well, yeah, we have to win one-on-ones. Like, dude, your corners are bad. Like, we have to win one-on-ones. Like, what are you? You're not helping them. You're not like, and I think he dialed up some good plays in the second half. But it's like, I don't trust Narduzzi as a defensive coach as most people do.
Yeah.
And I don't trust him as a head coach in general. I'm just not the biggest Narduzzi fan. The defense does concern. I mean, the thing is, like, you guys follow the players more than I do, so I'm more of a casual in terms of like the names on defense. So like, I don't know, like most of the names on defense this year. I'm like, I have no idea who these guys are. The only one I know is Braylon Lovelace because he went to Leechburg. Like that's the only thing I know.
We do have 3 really good safeties though, in Donovan McMillan, Javon McIntyre, and PJ O'Brien. I think that's a really good guys you can rotate and not miss a beat on any of them. So
yeah. It's just like in Narduzzi's defense, you're bound to get burnt.
And the going for 2 thing, I really didn't like that.
What was that?
Well, I was working and someone said the kicker had to have gotten hurt, but as we saw, Sauls kick the game winner, so that wasn't true.
And imagine if Sauls misses that kick. Imagine if they don't get that 4th down.
Yeah.
Right? Like Narduzzi. Like
Oh, yeah.
his decision making is very questionable.
Well,
It really is.
Just like thinking about it, right? It's what was it, 27, and you score, and it's 27-19, right? Or what was it, 27?
It was 27-19, and then
19
they
at
went
that
for
point.
2. Yeah.
They go for why not just? I don't understand like in general why coaches do this. I think more coaches are doing this. It's kind of weird. I guess the analytics, whatever. But like, why not just kick the extra point, 27-20, and then you got to get the other touchdown still.
Yeah.
Make it 27-26, and then go for 2.
Like,
and then
especially when you're a
try to
football
win
team
it.
and you don't have that good of a football team. Like, I don't think Pitt is just all that talented of a team. Like, don't make it harder than
Yeah.
it has to be.
To me, the only reason why they may have done that, and I don't agree with it, but I think it's because, hey, if we're down by 6, that's 2 field goals to tie it. So if
I mean,
we,
you're
if
not
we
gonna
can't be
have, there was
perfect,
like 5
I
minutes
agree.
left in the
I
game.
agree.
What-
Yeah, but I think that's just in the back of their mind. That's what they're
It's
just
just
in case.
looking at it now, it's easier to kind of look past because we got the win.
Yeah.
But I was thinking this though, like after they didn't get the 2-point conversions, like okay, now they need not only to get a stop and a score, they need to get another one.
Yeah.
And then get a field goal. And with Pitt, like that's I was like with our defense, but credit like you guys said, defense has shown a lot, especially in the first. I mean, they were just giving up everything to Cincinnati.
People have to remember, Cincinnati is a bad team. Bad. They're
Oh,
bad.
and
They're very
3-9
bad.
last
They
year,
were
yeah.
they were favored against us,
Yeah.
and they destroyed us for most of that game. I mean, it was the biggest comeback in 50 years. It was unprecedented, and you got to give Cade Bell a lot of credit.
Yeah, and Eli
Holstein
Holstein
for stepping up. But I think Cade Bell was able, they kept helping him get in rhythm. And,
Right.
and credit to Narduzzi for sticking with Holstein because they could have easily went to Yarnell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they Cade Bell schemed up in the second half and some easier throws, right, to get more confidence in Holstein. And then Holstein, I think him being able to run, he ran like a lot in the third quarter and into the fourth. I think that really gave him a lot of confidence too because it extended the drive. Obviously
his
it
legs
wasn't
are
throwing,
a
but
weapon.
Oh,
he was
yeah.
able to extend these drives, and then Desmond Reed is my hero. Desmond Reed
I
is
can't believe how good he's been in the first 2 games. I
They-
did
Pitt
not
is
believe.
RBU. Like,
Yeah.
how many good running backs have come out of Pitt? Like,
Well,
and just
So
been
we
really
got
good.
Dorsett, Curtis Martin, James Conner.
Even guys who haven't done all that well in the league.
Yeah.
Like, what's his
Shady
name?
McCoy, you can't forget
Quadrell.
about him.
What was his name?
Quadriolus.
Yeah.
Quadriolison.
And Darren Hall, that tandem.
Darren Hall, yeah.
The first and only multiple 1,000-yard rushers in a
It's
season
hard to
Pitt's
do.
ever had.
Is-
That's
is
That
insane.
offensive line that year was
Yeah, it
excellent.
was
Izzy
insane.
Abanikanda.
Is he?
who's-
I can't. Yeah, you
who-
He's
can't
with the
forget about him.
Jets.
Yeah,
They like him.
they
Yeah.
do like him. So,
They
but
got your behind Brees Hall. That's the only.
But
thing.
overall, so what Pitt needs to make sure they do against West Virginia is, and they did
Okay,
it.
so let's move on.
Okay.
Pitt WVU
Yeah.
Okay.
preview.
I'll
Let's,
be in
let's get
attendance
into
for that
it.
game, so if you see me, say hi. 'Cause I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great atmosphere. It's gonna be, unfortunately, it's gonna be 75% West Virginia fans. I don't know if you guys.
Well, here's
They said that
can
last-
I?
said that
That's
2
what I'm
years
saying.
ago,
They said
too,
that
yeah.
2 years
No,
ago.
no,
and
I
that
was.
wasn't the case.
Wait, were they actually saying that this year?
Oh, I thought
No,
you were
no,
being
I was
literal.
just-
Oh,
I
you
was
were
just-
being sarcastic.
yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did not realize that.
Yeah, because
Good
there
one,
wasn't.
Good one.
Yeah, so there's gonna be, unfortunately, guys. It's gonna be the Pitt's gonna be working against the crowd, so that's just the harsh reality. But anyway, what Pitt needs to do is what they did in the second half defensively is continue just pressuring. Obviously, they're gonna do the same
blitzes,
thing.
because you don't
But
want
also-
your corners out there for too long.
Also, Rashad Battle, you gotta step up in this game.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
you were getting
He wasn't
targeted
battling.
every
Yeah,
play.
he
he
wasn't
was.
battling. He was.
He was,
short.
and like you said, Jake, he's been hurt the
Is he a
past few years.
freshman?
No,
he's like a
senior.
redshirt junior or
Or
senior.
I think
yeah.
he's he's
Wait,
been
where's
hurt.
he from? Did we
Georgia.
always have?
He's
him?
from Georgia, I think.
Not from the college Georgia, but he went to high school in
Yeah,
Georgia.
he was from
we grabbed.
Georgia,
He was
yeah.
in the class of 2020.
Yeah, I
Has he
think.
been with Pitt?
He's been with.
Yeah,
this
he's
is
just
his
been
fifth
hurt,
year on
yeah.
Pitt, yeah.
But he was.
Nice.
I mean, Xavier Henderson's a good receiver for Cincinnati, but he was getting targeted every
Yeah, he
play. He
was,
was getting
yep.
beat. And in the second half, not the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, he did a lot better job. And Riley Gandy, I thought, wasn't great, but he
Yeah.
almost had that interception. It was tough.
I
His
think
foot
he has
was on the line.
potential. I think.
Yeah,
with
I think so
seasoning for
too.
sure.
But corner was going to be a big question going into the season anyway,
Yeah.
just because of MJ Devonshire. Marquise Williams, I think, was unnoticed by a lot of people,
Oh,
just
yeah.
underrated. I know he's smaller.
for
he
him
wasn't
being an
great,
outside
but-
corner at like 5'9", that's hard
Yeah.
to do. And he held his own. So.
And I think our safeties are really good. They weren't as they haven't been as good really. I think the first 2 games, but
Yeah.
maybe it's just I don't know. But they're Javon McIntyre's been here, Donovan McMillan's been here for this is year 2 now, so just got to keep pressuring that Nate Matlack and those edge rushers. They got to, and when you're trying to go for a sack, they got to make sure they actually get the sack because what almost cost Pitt the game against Cincinnati, I think it was in the third quarter, and I thought it was over after this because it was a 4th down play, and Cincinnati, I think the quarterback, I can't remember his name now, but he actually played really well for Cincinnati.
Sorsby.
Yeah,
He was from
Brandon
Indiana,
Sorsby.
Indiana,
Yeah,
right?
he was good in Indiana too.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was pretty good in that game, but he was running. I think the play broke down. He was running to try to get the first down, and or he was no, I think he was throwing, and then Nate Matlack goes to try to sack him. And he almost has him, but he misses. He misses the sack, and then they get him getting the first down. But I think I can't remember what happened, but they didn't. I don't think they scored.
I had to watch the game online on Stream East.
Why did you? Have
Because
to do that?
because I'm on DirecTV and DirecTV's battling Disney right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't
And
know that.
ESPN.
Yeah,
so
I keep seeing the ads. It's like
I'm going over to my aunt years ago graduated from, she was a cheerleader at West Virginia, so we always watched the game together. And like I don't like hate West Virginia. Like, I root for them other than when they're against Pitt. I mean, I know it's different for a lot of Pitt fans and probably for you guys. But, I mean, that's part of the reason. But I'm going over there so I don't have to deal with, well, and we always did. We did it. We went in person 2 years ago, and we went watched that disaster last year with Jerkovic.
Yeah.
I think, I hate to say it, but if you're looking for a college football bet this week, I hate to say it, but West Virginia -6.
-6. The
That's-
line's it's -1 now.
Really?
Is it minus?
Yeah, it's-
I thought it was -6. Am I tripping?
On the one out, ESPN bet has it at -1.
Let's go to DraftKings. We're not sponsored by DraftKings.
We have no sponsors.
Yeah, we
we have no
But-
sponsors
let's-
as of now.
I
If
could've
anybody wants
swore
to,
It opened at like 6.
it
or
opened
6 and
it
a half.
opened at 5.5 or 6.
It's down to 1.
Yeah, well I just looked this morning. It's down to 1.
Where at? Where on?
I was
What's
on
your
ESPN.
site?
I was on ESPN. They like show the games and then they show like the lines and everything. ESPN bet has it as West Virginia -1. It might be different on DraftKings.
Yeah, you're right. So that game. So the money is on
Money's heavy on Pitt.
either the money or the bets are heavy on Pitt. I don't know which ones. Well, West Virginia. I mean, if they're just essentially a pick 'em, I mean. I'm sorry, West Virginia has the much more talented team. I know their defense is kind of, not all that good, but Garrett Green's a veteran. He's been there, done that. Well, I wouldn't say been there, done that, but like they have some weapons. They got a good running game. They have this running back Donaldson.
Yeah, he
destroys
torched us.
Pitt.
He
Yeah.
torched us 2 years ago, especially.
Yeah, and West Virginia is maybe I'm overvaluing West Virginia, but I know they didn't do well against Penn State. Penn State's a very good football team. I know they didn't do well against Bowling Green, but West Virginia is a good football team. This is not Cincinnati. This is like West Virginia has a chance to compete, I think, for the Big 12 title, possibly to at least make it to the championship game. I could be crazy for that. I mean, it's not like the Big 12 is all that good. I just feel like this is a different animal. I don't, and this is good and bad. The pressure to win this game is on West Virginia.
Oh yeah.
Because the West Virginia people have always been saying Neil Brown can't win a big game. Neil
Yeah.
Brown, and I know they beat Pitt last year, but I think people are kind of like about that because it was Phil Jerkovic. Like Pitt was just a complete mess.
They were
Yeah.
And
absolute mess.
Yeah.
and so I think that the pressure is on Neil Brown. Like they're gonna be. I think West Virginia's gonna win. I don't think it's not gonna be a blowout. I hope not, especially because it's a rivalry game. But now Neil. The thing is, the advantage for Pitt is okay. You have to hope Neil Brown, because I don't think he's all that. I think the thing in this game, both coaches, I'm not that high. I don't think highly of.
Yeah.
Especially Neil Brown, because he's not a good play caller. We saw that in the Penn State game. He's calling the offense. He's not a good.
Yeah, but he
play
has a nice
caller.
goatee though. Do you
Yeah,
see that?
yeah,
He has
sometimes it balances out.
Like he's just not all that great of a coach situationally as a play caller, and Pitt's defense. But still, I think Pitt's defense is. I think West Virginia still has a pretty good offense, like considering they're limited by Neil Brown, and West Virginia's defense isn't all that good. But maybe it's a good thing that the pressure is more on West Virginia. But Pitt, to me, them coming back and beating Cincinnati like that and getting dominated, that doesn't show me that they're ready to beat West Virginia. Now this line has come really down far. I don't know. I could be very wrong, but I'm having a hard time seeing Pitt really do well this week on Saturday, especially with Holstein. I mean, he looked bad, and this is a high pressure situation for a young quarterback. He looked pretty bad for most of that game. So I don't know.
I strongly disagree.
Okay.
I don't like siding with the public. It's going all the way down to -1. I don't like that, but I think all the momentum's on Pitt's side right now. If you look
they
at
certainly don't have as much pressure on themselves.
Yeah, and like I know C.J. Donaldson is a great running back, but we also have a great running back. I think we have better wide receivers. I think Kenny Johnson, they got to get him the ball a little bit more than they did they did it really good in the Kent State game, but Kent State, Cincinnati, it's different levels, and they didn't get him the ball as much. But Konate Mumfield really stepped up last game. I think he's going to have he needs to have a good game. And what Pitt needs to do, and Garrett Green he's not going to beat you with his arm. Yeah. That's just, if he's going to beat you, he's going to beat you with his legs. So what Pitt needs to do is they have to tackle much better. They did not tackle good against Cincinnati.
That's hard to fix in a week.
Well, you know what I'm doing if I'm Pitt? I'm having Jordan Bass, easily your fastest linebacker, as a spy.
Yeah.
Make sure Garrett Green does not beat you with his legs, because, like you said, that's how he's going to beat us. And in knowing past Pitt defenses, quarterbacks that can run, maybe not exactly running quarterbacks, but quarterbacks that can run, they tend to beat us a little bit.
So am I overvaluing West Virginia?
Oh, and also
they're a good team.
Well, I think they're a good team. Right. I don't think they're going to compete for the Big 12. I think they are.
They're still still a mid Big 12 team.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's awful.
Yeah, and last year if you look at the quarterbacks, I know they went 9-4. If you look at the quarterbacks they played, it was not.
And they lost to Houston, but it was on a miracle.
But they played. Baylor had Sawyer Robertson. BYU had. I don't know if Keaton Slovis was starting at that point, but he wasn't good for BYU. And there were some others. I mean, Texas Tech had their third string quarterback against. So there were a lot of games that they won where they didn't play against the best. That team offered. And I think their defense is all right. I don't know if there's much difference between Pitt's defense and West Virginia's, but Pitt needs a tackle. They need a tackle. Oh, yeah. And they need to be at least competent one-on-one. It's not going to matter as much as in the Cincinnati game, but I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be tight.
It's always fun. Yeah. It's always fun.
Well, last year was not fun.
No.
Yeah. I don't think for either team. I don't think West Virginia fans they were probably just like, this is like West Virginia was not good in that game either.
I came home from work and I was watching the second half of that game with Connor, and he knew how frustrated I was. I was so mad.
That was
bad.
I couldn't watch the game.
I mean, the fact that they didn't take Jurkovec out was ridiculous. And that's another thing about our quarterback situation. I think if they were really serious about wanting to win as many games as they could now, they would start Yarnell. And I've thought about that because I was like, why didn't they start Yarnell? But at the same time, it's like, I don't think your team's all that talented this year. You might as well let your quarterback of the future, who you believe is your quarterback of the future, get his reps now, make his mistakes now, lose the big games now. If we lose, get the experience now so he's ready. Because Pitt's not expected to do all that much this year, and it kind of showed the last couple games. Like they won, but it's like there's some big issues. Right. There's some major issues.
And you can tell how much faith Narduzzi has in Cade Bell, because I assume this was a whole battle because Yarnell was more of Narduzzi's guy, someone that won't turn the ball over, that will be safe, make sure the defense isn't on the field all the time. But Holstein's Cade Bell's guy. That's the guy he wanted to bring in. That's who he wants to run the offense, and I think Narduzzi has a lot of trust in Cade Bell, and I think that's ultimately what the decision came to be.
Is it all of our weapons were from Western Carolina?
Oh, we got a couple.
Who's all from Western Carolina?
Sincerely, Desmond Reed and Poppy Williams was, but then he went to San Diego State. Thinking like a weird thing.
Poppy Williams has played pretty well too. I think for sure. I think the Western Carolina and Sincerely had some good plays against Kent State. He didn't really have an impact. There are a lot of wide. I think.
We do have a lot of receivers.
They're
we
a lot
just don't know
capable,
how good they are.
Yeah.
Like Mumfield, he looked terrible in that Kent State game, but I think he's him and Johnson are their top two receivers.
He's one of our captains. So
Kenny Johnson, I think, is the most talented
like
receiver.
Him a lot,
And Konate Mumfield route running, I think he did a great job against Cincinnati, especially that first touchdown to get it from 27-6 to 27-13.
Yeah.
He did a great job because Holstein wasn't looking that way, and he beat the corner, but then he came back and then went out again, and it was really good extending the play, and Holstein was able to connect for a touchdown. So, extending the plays will be huge. But Holstein, I think, if Pitt wants to win, they have to get off to a good start.
They have to
obviously.
Bell's gonna have to make easy reads, get him comfortable into the game. But he did make easy reads in the first half.
Yeah, he did.
But maybe not as many deep balls. Like, just give him easy reads as much as possible. Tua this game up. That wasn't nice. Tua, we all hope Tua as well. But like, make it as easy for him and run the ball. If you can run the ball, well, that'll really help. I just don't trust Holstein to not turn the ball over, because there were some interceptions. He had a couple interceptions last game, didn't he?
He had one, but it should have been.
There could have been two or three again.
There should have been.
It's
exactly.
But
the
I mean,
last 2 games.
Like if he continues, obviously the momentum, if he continues that, like the decisions in the second half, we have a quarterback. I mean, I think we already do have a quarterback.
But I think it's going to be up and down. I think it's not going to.
Like,
and I don't see, especially the nerves of that game. Like, we could be in trouble in the beginning of that. It's going to be all about how we start, because if we get behind, which I think is a real serious, we're not going to come back like we did against Cincinnati. So we have to start out. We have to keep it close at halftime.
Yeah.
We can't be down like even 10 points at half. Like that can't happen, in my opinion. I don't think we're coming back from that.
So do we want to do like game predictions?
Yeah, I was gonna say
score predictions.
I have WVU winning 27-17.
Ooh.
I have Pitt winning 34-31. High score, yeah.
So even though like this isn't like the best of predictions I can make, but I think it's gonna be 28-21. I was playing NCAA 14. I'm not buying a new console to buy the new game. I'm going to stick with NCAA 14. But no, so I was playing that. Pitt ended up winning 28-21 in it. And that Wisconsin transfer cornerback, Tamon Lynham or whatever, he got pick 6. So we're going to see shades of MJ Devonshire 2.0 today or tomorrow.
What difficulty?
Heisman.
I swear
on my life it was on Heisman.
He swears.
I swear. Yep.
So it's gonna be 20-21. That's the
it's definitely.
That's
I hope Pitt win. I mean, it would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be so?
Well, are you rooting interest? I don't know. I got a
question.
No,
I'm rooting for Pitt. Oh no.
Does she have sway over?
No. I will be wearing my Pitt stuff tomorrow. No, don't believe me. No. I don't have a lot of faith with Pitt and Pitt.
You seem very cynical on this team.
I am. You guys know I have been. Like yeah.
I mean, if they win this game, which I thought like before, like I said, I thought Pitt was gonna win the Cincinnati game and the West Virginia game before, just because they lost both last year, and these are semi-rivalry games. I always like, especially Pitt West Virginia.
Why didn't they have the trophy for the River City rivalry?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that?
I know. Yeah.
That was such a cool. Yeah. I mean, it's a massive. These trophies are just cool that like there's massive trophies.
I know.
Everybody's like, you got like 3 guys trying to carry them around, but. I think if they do start 3-0, and then they're gonna be Youngstown. If they lose to Youngstown,
then the season.
The season's over. But at North Carolina is a winnable game with how we've seen North Carolina look. At SMU's now, SMU does not look good. Louisville's gonna be tough. Clemson should be tough still. But what other games do you? I mean, Virginia at home. I mean, Syracuse at home. Cal at home.
Syracuse, they beat Georgia Tech.
Yeah, but you know,
Georgia Tech.
that wasn't surprising though. I
Florida State. Oh my God. Oh,
that's a story for.
That's another day.
Well, you could see a path where if everything goes right, you could see 8 wins or 9 wins.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I mean, 10 wins. It's gonna happen. 10-2. Book it.
That
happens.
Book it. Like when you said 10 wins is not gonna happen, I was like 10 wins is gonna happen.
Oh my God.
I want to have.
I've seen enough.
Yeah, I know. I would love that.
I've seen enough.
I go to every Pitt home game. I would love to see that.
I've seen
2-0. Defense giving up so many yards. I've seen enough. 2-0. 12-0. Undefeated. Alabama.
Well,
Stop the count.
Stop the count.
You know why I'm so harsh on Narduzzi? You're bringing up 10 games. I think everyone gives him a pass because all the Pitt fans were so happy about the 10-2 season.
Yeah.
And them winning the ACC.
It's a great year.
It was a great year, but that was because you had that offense was incredible. I mean, the defense had good players, but it was the offense. It was Kenny Pickett, and we should have been 12-0 that year if it wasn't. If Narduzzi makes adjustments, if he has his guys ready to go for Western Michigan and Miami.
His defense.
It was his
those
defense.
games.
We should have been 12-0. Miami was bad, and it was Western Michigan. I was at that Western Michigan.
Oh, you were?
You know what made me
awful.
so mad? After that Western Michigan game, he blamed on not converting like 2 4th downs.
He's not very good.
I'm like, your
the
defense
media.
gave up over 40 points. Like
he says a lot of stupid things.
Like,
that's what also makes me mad about him. He says a lot. Remember last year he's like Boo City.
That's so funny. Did you see what he said? they didn't. It was like nice all week, obviously outside in Pittsburgh, and he said they didn't practice outside.
Yeah.
Do you know what his reasons were? He said because there's there's the hills around. There's hills everywhere. Those Mountaineers, they could be stealing our plays. That's what his reason. Go look it up later
Bro,
for those at home.
Seriously, I don't
That
like
was his
him.
reasoning.
Like, I'm sorry. I just
No, I
like
think
if
that
Pitt,
was.
if Pitt wins like 3 or 4 games, if they win like 4 games this year, they should seriously consider it. If everything goes
Well, we'll have a
horribly-
new AD, so they're not going
Well,
to be as patient.
the
with us as
buyout
we like,
is
so.
the
I like
buyout.
that
The
because-
buyout is very. I think it's 40
We'll
million.
donate.
It might be like
Yeah,
a ton of
he
money.
did sign a relatively recent extension, if I'm not mistaken.
We'll
so.
donate. Listen, I just,
But-
but like, and that's what will always make me mad. That's why I always like Narduzzi. Just some of the things he says and then like does, and then that year it's like, yeah, we won the 8, but like we could have done a lot more that year if we went 12-0 like we should have. I mean,
Yeah.
we could have been in the conversation for the Final Four possibly.
We would. I think we would have made over Cincy, no doubt, if we go 12-0.
And we should
And
have.
then wins the ACC, go 13-0. I think there is we easily would have been the
We
4th seed.
we lose to Georgia by 30 points, but
We
that's,
We would have played Bama. We would.
well, whatever.
If
She's
we were
still
the
at a
4th
loss
seed,
by
yeah.
40. Okay, so since we've talked a lot of college football, our segments always go longer than expected. We're gonna do our week 2 picks, and congruently kind of talk about what we saw from the teams. Kind of just
Yeah.
chat. But wait, so that we could kind of do both at the same time and get out of here. It's a beautiful day out. High school football. I got my first shout out to the Northgate Flames. I got my first home game of the season.
go.
It's everything's going on. They have the homecoming parade. They're doing like they call it Meet the Flame. There's a lot going on at Northgate tonight. But anyway, so let's get into our picks. So last week, let's see. Jake Levinsky and Nathan Shivens.
Brian Cashman. Brian
Cashman, yeah.
Jake. I'm sorry. That's someone.
Who are you thinking?
Yeah,
of?
I thought of
Yeah.
someone
Brian
else.
Cashman.
Brian
Yeah.
Cashman and Nathan Shivens, both tied at 9 and 6 with their picks last week. Jake Bell went 8 and 7. He had a lot of upset picks, and I went 7 and 8. Not a good start. I mean, we're around 500, so it could be worse. But actually now, because we made our picks last night, Nate and Brian Cashman were on the wrong end of the Bills-Dolphins game. Me and Jake Bell had the Dolphins. So currently,
I had the Bills.
or I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you had the
the Bills,
Bills.
yeah.
I meant we both had the Bills.
Yep.
So I'm 8 and 8 currently, and you 3 are 9 and 7 currently.
Awesome.
So
Off to a rough start already this week. For
Yeah,
me.
not the
Not a great.
Dolphins.
I mean,
Yeah.
they outgained the Bills by like 100 yards, but they had the
Yeah.
3 turnovers,
Yep.
obviously.
Okay,
James Cook.
the Dolphins. Like it's not even surprising at this point. Tua is so limited. He's just like it's time. Like I think it would be best for the Dolphins if he hung it up, honestly, because they could do so much. McDaniel's such a good coach.
Yeah.
The fact that he got this much out of Tua, I don't think people realize how limited Tua is. He's just not. His arm, there's not much athleticism. Like it's just like. But anyway, let's move on. So let's move to this week's games, and let's talk about some of these teams, if I can get on here. So, this is kind of a, definitely not a high-end game of the week. Raiders at Ravens. The Raiders. Brian Cashman's Raiders are, I think the line opened up at 9. Ravens are 9-point favorites at home. I think the Raiders play inspired under Antonio Pierce, but that offense is going to be a mess. The quarterback situation is a mess. I don't think the offensive coordinator is all that good. The defense is playing better. They have some pieces there. I think this is a game like the Ravens, not like as much as the Bills do, but the Ravens will play down to their competition. And the Steelers, obviously, they're known for that. I think the Raiders could cover this game, but I have the Ravens. We kind of talked about the Ravens last week. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm on the Ravens,
Ravens.
too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yep.
let me write.
Not picking this up.
What did Brian Cashman? I think Brian Cashman. I was talking
Brian
with him.
Cashman went against his own team. He does have the Ravens.
Well, he had the Raiders originally, but then we were talking. I was talking about, are you sure? I was like, are you sure? And so I think I'm gonna give
if the
myself
Raiders
credit
win
for
this week,
the Raiders.
I will be.
They're gonna win when he
that would
picks
be
against
something.
them.
Yeah.
I actually gotta pull up his picks. I know he did have the Ravens, so we're 4-0 on the Ravens. I think it's a close game. Like it wouldn't shock
The Raiders
me
are gonna win
if the
because
Ravens.
we're-
The thing is, The thing is, the problem with the Raiders is their run defense got gashed, and what do the Ravens do? They're gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of
Yep.
surprising because Christian Wilkins now on the Raiders. I mean,
I
Max.
forgot about that.
So you
But
thought the
Harbaugh.
interior.
It's the Harbaugh effect,
Yeah.
man. That team is
Well,
physical. We'll get
and
to the Chargers.
J.K. Dobbins.
They have a new
really good.
mentality,
Oh, yeah.
man. Wait, these
So-
are Jake's. Where is Brian Cashman's?
Yeah, those are Jake Levisky's picks. We got to get the Brian Cashman's picks.
No,
Yeah.
Jake Bell.
Oh.
Okay, I had Jake Bell's picks from last week. Yeah, he has the Ravens. So, then moving on, 49ers at Vikings. 49ers look dominant. And I think it's the second year in a row we've kind of doubted the 49ers going in
Yeah.
to week one, and then they just blow and the Jets I think are a respectable team, but we'll get to the Jets. But the 49ers, they looked. I mean, they were just dominant in all phases of the game. I think their defense is getting old, which concerns me. I think the Vikings good win against the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you,
I mean, it's not hard to be dominant against.
but like
Giants, but-
the Darnold looks pretty good. I think, like I said, one of my predictions this year, Darnold's gonna have kind of like a Baker Mayfield kind of revival. I think he's gonna have a really good year. So who are you guys taking? Brian Cashman is the 49ers.
I have the 49ers, but I think the Vikings cover. Because I think it's kind of one of those really good wins for the Niners, shorter week. I think the Vikings, they have a very tough schedule early on. The Vikings, after the first game, which they had to win, it's really tough game after tough game. So I think they'll play really well in this one. But I like the Niners in the end.
I do too. I just think that, I like Sam Darnold a lot. I hope he has a good game. It's just I don't see the Niners dropping this one. I mean, they might have an upset, later on in the year, but I think they start at 2-0. So.
I'm going with the Vikings.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I was wondering what that long pause. I thought we were
Like you said, 49ers off a short week. Losing McCaffrey, that's going to have to hurt them eventually. Like they're going to start to get to stop that run game. I don't know if the Vikings are going to do it, but with Brian Flores as the DC, I have a lot of confidence in Brian Flores. I think they kind of stop the run. They're going to have to rely on Brock Purdy a lot more. It's a short week at Minnesota, tough play. I mean, it's a dome, but it gets loud in there. It's a tough place to play. Sam Darnold, like I said, I'm very high on him. I think I picked against the 49ers last week, so I'm going to pick against them again this week. It's probably a huge mistake, but I'm going to go. That's going to be one of my upsets. Minnesota beating. Yeah, I'll definitely be taking them on the spread to at least cover. I like them to cover.
Yeah.
Probably don't win, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give them a shot.
That was crazy. Jordan Mason for the Niners.
Jordan Mason
running so well. I remember
I had
the Georgia
McCaffrey
Tech.
in fantasy. I should have picked up Jordan Mason because I had Elijah Mitchell, but Elijah Mitchell went on the IR.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, someone in my fantasy group picked up Jordan Mason after McCaffrey going down. It paid off.
Same with me.
It
Yeah.
paid off
Same
for
with
him.
someone in my league.
Wasn't my opponent, so I'm all right with it.
Yeah, same.
But
Saints at
Oh,
Cowboys.
here we
The
go.
Saints did not look like the mediocre, unenthusiastic organization
Yeah.
that they were last year.
Yep.
Now I know I think everyone's kind of talking about how the Panthers were just so bad, but I was thinking my only hope for the Saints this year is if Clint Kubiak really makes a difference, and maybe he actually is. I mean, this is he's a McVay. What system was he under? I forget, but that's a good offensive coach right there, I think. I mean, he's under obviously his dad, right? So, the Saints are an interesting team. Cowboys looked like the dominant regular season Cowboys that they were.
Yep.
I mean, the Browns were favored in that game. The Cowboys' passing game has not missed a beat, but we can't trust them in December is the problem. But I mean, they've won 12 games 3 years in a row. I don't see that happening again, but McCarthy keeps doing it. So you got to give them some credit at least for that.
yeah, this is an interesting game.
But what are we thinking? What do we think about both these teams?
Because the Saints coming off a really good win, but their passing game wasn't really that good. They only threw. Derek Carr only threw
I
for
didn't
like
watch
100.
much of that game.
I didn't watch it. I just saw the stats after. They threw for like Derek Carr threw for like 190 or it wasn't. It was,
Really?
like they had 40. What
Well,
was it?
when you're ahead by that much, you don't need to throw.
I know, but you like having so many points. Like you'd think they'd have more passing.
Yeah.
How many
So,
touchdowns did he throw for? He threw for some
I'm not-
touchdowns.
probably, but so either the Saints win this game outright, I feel like, or they lose by like 10. I think the Cowboys win and cover. I
I
think
think the Cowboys win too.
yesterday on my radio show, Sports Scoop with Nathan Shivens, WPPJ.
Yeah, go check that out. When is that on?
WPPJ. When is it on? Thursdays at 6. WPPJ 6.
And also the
Alright,
Pirate
yeah.
Peyton podcast comes
Pirate
out
Peyton
Thursday,
podcast.
Fridays, or Saturdays. They try to do Thursdays, but that never works out.
Try to watch everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's good content.
And follow me on Twitter. And also, we have our own Twitter, but we need to work on I need to actually post on there and stuff.
Yeah,
We'll have to figure
but-
that out.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to
Back to the game.
I think
Yeah.
I had the Saints covering, but the Cowboys winning. I've changed my mind. I have the Cowboys winning and covering because I think people are higher on the. I still don't think the Saints are very good. I just think the Panthers are so bad. I don't think some people said the Saints were gonna finish last in the NFC South. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of people were anticipating Bryce Young being taking a huge step. I think he'll take a step forward, but I don't think it's gonna be that crazy. So I think the Saints. I don't think the Saints are going to be very good. I think they'll probably win 7 games. So, but I thought that was a good win. Obviously, win you had to have. So I'm going to take the Cowboys. Really surprising performance for me last week, just because there's so many bad things going on with the Cowboys right now. They're very CeeDee Lamb reliant on their offense. The running game.
People
with the-
forget though their defense is.
Their defense is
Yeah.
still good, but is Diggs back? Did he?
I don't know.
He was hurt. I don't remember when I saw that, but but it was really surprising. But it wasn't surprising that Deshaun Watson
Ugh.
played poorly, and he had another. He has some more legal troubles, which is not surprising at all. So
Yeah,
I have the
go ahead.
Cowboys too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I'm still not sure if I'm gonna. I might take the. If I pick a side for the spread, I might take the Saints, but I'm still not 100. I'm still not
it's a bigger
sold on
number,
that
Yeah.
game.
but
Yeah,
There
I have,
might
to, I have
be-
to think, but I
there-
think the Cowboys will win.
I think
'cause
there's a-
I just haven't seen enough from the Saints. I gotta actually
Yeah.
watch them more.
I think there's a little bit of an overreaction from the first week too. I
Yeah.
think the number could be even larger, but it is the Cowboys we're talking about.
well, Brian Cashman has the Saints. I remember
Oh.
seeing that.
All right.
Brian Cashman.
Honestly, it could very well happen. You never know.
Oh, the
so-
Cowboys.
Yeah, with
I
the
mean,
Cowboys, it definitely could happen.
Anything. It's football. Anything can happen. Chargers at Panthers. I took the Panthers as one of my bets of the week last week, and that might have been one of the worst bets I've ever done in my entire life.
Never bet the Panthers.
And you know what? I might bet them again.
No, never bet the Panthers. Wow. Yeah, I mean, if the Chargers have any issue in this game, there will be major issues.
Oh, yeah.
I think the thing is with the
There-
Harbaugh, he likes to muddy it up, so it could be a
Yeah.
closer game than people expect.
But I mean,
Yeah.
they still covered easily against the Raiders last week when
Yeah,
they
Bryce
running
Young,
a lot.
I think, is just a bust. Like at this point,
He might be,
yeah.
but I think the Chargers win and cover. Although I don't think it's going to be a massive cover. I think they win by 10 or so, maybe. It's 8. I don't know.
Yeah, I like the Chargers a lot in this game. I mean, Harbaugh is just so experienced at all levels of football, and it's just
He's one of the few coaches who's been great at college football and
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah.
and the
yeah.
NFL. And this is the best quarterback by far he's ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be exciting to see what they could do. But I think the Chargers win this with ease, relatively. I mean, Panthers have a new head coach. He's going to have some learning curves. I mean, look at guys like Brian Flores and Dan Campbell. Look how long it took them to win their first game. I think it's going to be the same boat here and arguably a worse situation than both of them. So
Yeah, we have a clean sweep for the Chargers. Now here's an interesting: the Colts at the Packers. We were all on the Colts last week. They played very well, but the Texans they're looking so good right now.
Yeah.
Now the Packers, Malik Willis will be starting. I'm almost certain for the Packers. Colts are 2.5. I think it was 3, but now they're 2.5-point favorites with AR 15. People were saying, where did I hear that? I heard it the other day, and that made me laugh. But yeah, it is. His name is. It's Anthony Richardson.
that was the
15.
thing with Austin Reeves too. He had his number's 15 also, and he
AR
had
I
a,
didn't realize
he had,
that.
I think
That's
he had like a brand or something, and he moved away from that because of the
Yeah.
AR.
Yeah,
but
that's
Yeah, I was actually I forgot who the Packers backup quarterback was until I realized that it was Tennessee traded Malik Willis to the Packers. I was actually gonna go with the Packers, but then obviously realized Malik Willis is the backup, and I don't like Malik Willis as a quarterback at all. I think it'll be a closer game, but 2.5 is such a small number that if Indianapolis wins, they're more than likely going to cover as well. So I think the Colts win. I was going to pick the Packers as one of my upsets, but I can't pick Malik Willis to win that game.
I agree. I mean, I Richardson's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a good guy. He has crazy talent. I just hope he puts it all together. But
Yeah.
I just don't see the Colts dropping 2 in a row to start the year. I just don't see that.
But they could, like, if this is a good. I mean, the Colts gave up a ton to the Texans last week too, but they scored a lot, and so this could be one of those games with Malik Willis on the other side. Not sure, but I need Josh Jacobs to have a good. He's questionable. Josh Jacobs is questionable. I need him to have a good game for fantasy purposes as well. So I hope they rely on the run a lot.
Yeah.
Packers.
Malik Willis's first one as a Packer, you're feeling?
It makes absolutely no sense because Malik Willis is awful, but he never really had an offensive coach. I mean, I think if they design a scheme for him that can work, or they can fit him into the offense, get him comfortable. The Packers at Lambeau at home, that's like they're always good at home. Anthony Richardson, I think Anthony Richardson, but he has his accuracy issues.
Oh, yeah.
Going into Lambeau, into a rough environment. I think the Packers defense, they played horribly last week. They know they're going to need to step up this week because their quarterback's going to be out for a little bit, and they need to stay. They don't. No one wants to go 0-2. I mean, it's the same for the Colts, but I'm going to go. It makes really no sense, but the Packers feel like the Steelers in a lot of ways, like games they shouldn't win, they somehow find a way to win.
Yeah.
And now, of course, I mean the Packers I think are in a much better state than the Steelers as an organization right now, but I'm going with the Packers as another upset.
Well, I mean, it
doesn't. This is the least confident.
Well, there is a scenario where Anthony
but-
Richardson just has a terrible game and has a ton of turnovers.
Yeah, and I think that in Lambeau, like that, I think that's a real possibility.
But I think Malik Willis could have
And
turnovers
I like
as well.
Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to be really good. And I think people are going to, if he loses this game, people are going to be like, oh, is he a bust? But I think Shane Steichen will get it figured out with him. And even if they don't, they got Joe Flacco waiting on the bench.
Waiting in the wings.
Waiting in the wings. So, next game, Bucks at Lions. Big spread. The Lions are 7 points. Now it's up to 7.5 points.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot. I have the Lions though. It's hard to root against them, or not root against them, but pick against them to win. And I love Baker Mayfield, but I just don't see him throwing 4 touchdowns to 0 interceptions back to back. So.
Yeah, I picked the Lions last week. Or no, I picked the Rams. I picked against the Lions last week, actually. I picked the Rams. They almost won that game with all the offensive line issues and defensive issues. I'm going to go with the Lions this game, but I think the Bucks cover. I don't know why. It is kind of concerning. Why is that line? Why is that spread
line doesn't
so
make any
so big?
sense, and that's why I like the Bucks would be an interesting upset pick, but I think there's going to be a lot of overreaction because I mean Baker Mayfield looked like MVP against the Commanders, but the Commanders' defense is just not very good on paper. Lions. I have the Lions. You have the Lions, correct, Nathan?
Yeah, I got the Lions, but Bucks cover.
Bucks cover, and we're not keeping track of that, but still fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And Brian Cashman has the Lions, so we have another sweep there. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers, they didn't look all that good on Monday. Especially, I think Rodgers looked good. Like I thought Rodgers he threw the ball really well. He still has the arm. The offense didn't look terrible, didn't look good, and I think it didn't look. I just don't think they're going to be all that explosive, not because of the players that they have, but because Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator. He is not a good play caller. He's just not, and it's because and the problem with the whole Jets thing is Aaron. It's whatever Aaron wants, and at this point in his career, you can't just do whatever Aaron wants.
Yeah.
And Aaron isn't as mobile as he used to be, and that's also an issue. Like that was a big part of his game was being able to move a little bit, not run, but like move in the pocket. He's kind of
escape.
He's kind of like Big Ben. at the end of his career, but with a much bigger arm and a much more talented arm. Like I think the Jets' offense will be competent, which is for them to make a run at the playoffs. That's all they really need with their defense. But their defense did look bad. But their schedule coming up is pretty weak. They're facing the Mayo Man this week, Will Levis. I took the Titans to cover last week. I wanted the Bears to win, but I took them to cover, and I picked the Bears to win. But I took Tennessee to cover. They had a 17-point lead, and Will Levis basically just proved why he's not a franchise quarterback. So, I mean, the Titans roster I think is impressive. It's a pretty good underrated roster, but can't trust the quarterback. Jets have to win this game to get the monkey off their back with Rodgers. I'm going with the Jets. What are your thoughts on the Jets right now?
Well, they did not look good defensively at all.
No.
Which was surprising.
That's a concern because I have them on my fantasy. But facing the 49ers week 1, it's hard to out-scheme Shanahan.
Right.
It's tough.
But Robert Saleh's a defensive guy.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody.
That game kind of falls on Saleh.
Yeah,
it really
does. And yeah, I mean, I didn't think the offense was terrible. Aaron Rodgers had that nice touchdown to Alan Lazard. It was a really nice throw down the middle of the field. Yep. And Alan Lazard had a couple drops early, but that was a nice play there. But yeah, the Jets have to win. I'm going to pick the Jets. I think it will be actually kind of close because I do like Tennessee's defense a lot. I like the offseason moves. I like
Will Levis could not have mayonnaise in his brain. Like, the Titans would be an interesting team.
That is a weird thing, but yeah.
He's not a franchise quarterback. I can't have my quarterback doing mayonnaise commercials, and the thing is the good quarterbacks, they're fluid.
Yeah.
They're not bodybuilders. This kid's a bodybuilder. He's just tight. He's moving around in the pocket like Pickett, kind of. I remember I was seeing that on Twitter. Like, it's yeah.
Well,
sorry, Titans.
As much as you hate on the Titans, I actually have that as my first upset. They're
I think
taking
it's
over
possible.
the Jets. I think it's possible. Jets
yeah, I think it's gonna be close.
0-2. I'm going with my gut here. I think Titans bounce back.
It would be so Jets to go.
It would be, yeah.
to go 0-2
sometimes you just have to look at the organization as a whole.
Yeah, but I just don't think, like with the game on the line, I think it will be close.
Yeah.
I just what. That was one of the worst plays I've ever seen. I think Will Levis. You have the
was so
lead.
bad.
I mean, they would
That
have
was
to
so
win by
bad.
more than one possession.
I mean, I agree
or else
with
they won't win.
I agree with him trying to get out of bounds, but you have to have velocity.
Yeah.
You got to get it out of bounds,
Yep.
and you have to have awareness of where the defense is and where your guys are.
It's weird because he has an arm.
And the Jets
which is-
defense is
yeah.
going to come out pissed
Oh yeah.
next week.
They have a lot of really good players on defense.
And I think if I'm the owner, you got to sign Hassan Reddick. Like, get that done. Like, you gave up all these picks for him. He's holding out. Like, what are you doing?
And you
This
acquire.
is a make or break year for the Jets. You have to make the playoffs at least.
You traded for him to extend him.
Yeah,
that's why. That's why you traded for him.
Exactly.
And now they're not extending him.
Yeah.
It's just kind of.
These are just
hilarious.
two teams. It's just like, there's just a lot of. The Jets, I think, have a chance to make the playoffs, though.
the
But
Tit-
their ceiling isn't that high.
The Titans are not a good team, but I like their roster. I like the guys.
Their
they got
roster
Calvin
is
Ridley.
good. They got to get the quarterback right.
They gotta
and
get the
that's where it all starts.
Yeah.
They got to get the quarterback
for any
right.
team,
They could
really.
win 7-8 games this year, 9, maybe 9. But yeah.
Well.
And I don't know about the coach yet.
I don't think they're gonna.
9 games, that might be a stretch. But
I mean, I think they're at 6, 7 maybe. It's just a lot of good teams in the AFC.
Oh, yeah.
but-
Yep.
Seahawks at Patriots.
Oh, here we go.
Patriots upset the Bengals last week. A shocker.
Yeah.
An absolute, I don't know. The Bengals just don't show up. I don't know what's going on with them. We'll get to
It's
them.
a week 1 thing for them. It's weird.
I-
don't know how it's
Remember the
going.
Steeler game a few
Yeah.
years ago where they should have won it way earlier than
Oh, yeah.
and they lost obviously. but-
Seattle's defense is going to be a lot better this year with this Mike McDonald. This guy's a kind of a whiz. People are very high on him as a coach. Geno Smith, but he's been good the last couple of years. If you can get Geno to be how he's been, especially 2 years ago, I don't think he's going to be as good as he was 2 years ago ever again.
Yeah.
But if that defense is better, Seattle could, the NFC, it's anyone's ball game for those wild card spots. So, and then the Patriots, I mean, I don't, they're not a very good team, but they won last week.
They're one of the
so
16 teams
congrats
that
to
won it,
Gerard
though.
Mayo.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
Who you got in this game?
Yeah,
At New England.
well, I don't want the Patriots to win, but I so badly want to take them because I don't know if I have any upsets so
Yeah.
far. But there's no scenario I feel like where they start 2-0.
Yeah,
This
I
is
agree.
so, and I don't think the Seahawks are that good. I mean, I think they are, mediocre, a 8-9 win team probably.
I could see them getting to 10, possibly.
But
Possibly.
everything
The
would have to go
defense
right, I
really is
think.
really good.
I have Seahawks as well. Like you said, I don't think
Yeah,
Patriots
I-
are starting 2-0.
But
just
I think
feel
I think it's a
I mean,
close
their
game.
offense is not.
Yeah.
It's not like their offense did anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be a close game.
Yeah.
I think it will be because
A
I think
lot of money, or not money, a lot of bets are on the Patriots. Like, it's still
Wow.
majority
They are- I mean,
Seahawks, but everyone's overreacting
they
to
are,
last week.
the Patriots, I know historically they've been a lot better than in this past few years, but they are really good at home. It's a tough place to play.
Yeah.
But I got to take the Seahawks, I feel like. But if the Patriots win, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, but them being 2-0, I would be shocked.
Yeah.
Because
real.
this is not, I mean, and they traded Judon, they've traded guys away too. This is not a roster that is capable, I feel like, of doing anything like similar last year. But they are not last in the AFC East right now.
Here's an it's interesting from a betting perspective. The Giants at Commanders. By the way, I do have the Seahawks. I don't know if I said that officially. I do have the Seahawks. But yeah, moving on to the Giants at the Commanders. The Giants, I think, opened up as favorites in this game. Everyone is on the Commanders. The Commanders are now minus a 1.5 favorite.
Why were the Giants favored?
I think they were. Maybe I'm tripping.
Well,
I could
why,
be tripping.
Why is it still minus 1.5? This is crazy. Like, I don't think the Giants are a better overall team than Washington either. Do you guys think?
I think it's
I'm
very similar.
I'm very high. I think I was very high on Washington, and then last week
Their roster's still not very good.
Yeah, I know.
Jaden Daniels, I think he could easily be the best rookie quarterback this year.
Yeah.
But they're not a very good team.
I was very high on Washington. I mean, no, I thought they were going in. I thought 7 wins, which is kind of high for Washington this year. But I think they are overall better. I mean, the Giants have good players, but they're not going to score anything. Daniel Jones. I mean, that's one of the worst decisions I think of management, of ownership.
That and signing Deshaun Watson.
And
I think
Those are the
Deshaun
top
Watson
two
might be
right
worse,
now.
'cause at
Oh,
least
Deshaun Watson's
That
way
At least
worse.
the Browns had another.
At least
Well,
Daniel
yeah.
Jones is a human,
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
good human being, kind of. Maybe.
Yeah, I think he's
Like,
a good. Yeah.
Anyway,
But in terms of Watson was everybody even. I mean, in the moment for both of them though, everybody was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Not only the years, but obviously the money is just crazy. And I think the Dak one is crazy. I know they had to get it done, but in no world should Dak Prescott be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But I'm gonna go with Washington. I think they win and obviously cover. So
Well, it's funny. Like,
Jake?
I'm the only Daniel Jones, not supporter, but I'm the only one that sides with him. You know what I mean? I feel bad. Like,
I feel bad for him.
He
but
got booed whenever he was the 6th overall pick. He
well,
got
he's
his
fine.
bag.
He's making $40
yeah.
million.
I feel like
Yeah.
people blame him more than they blame the Giants. So he's my favorite quarterback in the NFL. I know that's a weird favorite quarterback to have.
How's your
That's-
favorite quarterback? I
I
understand
rooted
that.
for him since he was drafted. Like,
Well, he's an ACC guy. Is
Well,
that why?
well, no, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of ACC quarterbacks for the most
Yeah.
part, but no, I like Daniel Jones a lot. Is he good? No, I don't want to be too delusional, but I like him a lot. With that being said, I still have the Commanders going, even though I'm a big Daniel Jones guy. I had the Giants winning last week; they did not win.
like,
So
am I missing something with this? Like, I'm just like confused at why. Like, I thought like,
And I think that's what everyone feels.
if both teams are evenly matched, like we think they are, then why wouldn't it open like Washington minus 2.5 or minus 3 or something? Why is it like and Dan Quinn, defensive guy? Like, I feel like they're not that good defensively, but I feel like they'll be a little bit better, and they're playing an offense that is talented. Malik Neighbors, I think, is awesome, but
Nathan, it doesn't make sense.
yeah,
It
I
doesn't
like it.
make sense. And that's why I'm going with the Giants.
Yeah, let's go.
And I'm telling you right now, Brian Dable, I mean, I like him as a coach.
yeah,
And
do
I think
too.
he got the most he could out of Daniel Jones. And I don't know if he's going to get anything like he did 2 years ago out of him
Yeah.
again. Because I don't know if they just have the team around him to do it, especially without Saquon. Their offense was still built around Saquon. And that's the GM's fault. They could have easily kept Saquon if they really wanted to. But this is desperation time for the Giants, for Daniel Jones and Brian Dable. This is desperation time. This line makes absolutely no sense. The Commanders' defense is terrible. If there's a game to capitalize on and get the offense going, it has to be this week.
Yeah.
I know it's week 2, but out of all games this week, out of all the teams, the Giants may have the most pressure on them. They have to get this done. They have to get this done. The line, I think, is showing that. And I'm going with the Giants as another upset.
I like it.
I
That's my
actually
favorite upset you made.
I could definitely see that. With the line, it's just so fishy. Now I really want to watch this game. I don't know why. It's like the worst game ever.
You guarantee I'll be taking the Giants this week, and I'm going to hate every part of it. I hate, like, the Giants are such a bad team, but, like, next game, Browns at Jaguars. 2 teams just, like, what are, like, it's just, like, you should be so much better than this. Like, especially the Browns, like, the roster's there. The coach is pretty good. I think the GM's pretty good, but they made a massive mistake with Deshaun Watson. I mean, they'd be better off with Jameis. Deshaun, I mean, he can't even. He's so inaccurate. It's bad. It's really bad. For the Jaguars, you know,
should have won.
Oh yeah.
You had a 17-7 lead, and I know the Dolphins. It's not like the Dolphins are a joke of a team. But how, and I know that fumble kind of, like, changed the momentum, but how do you not score in the second half? Like, I really liked Doug Peterson. I mean, what he did in Philadelphia, but I'm starting to think, like, Trevor Lawrence is a great talent. How are we not scoring points? You have the weapons. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I think a coaching change may be needed in Jacksonville if the offense continues this trend, because we saw this since the second half of last year. Having said that, though, I can't trust Deshaun right now, so I'm going with Jacksonville because that was just a disaster last week, and I want to see the Browns lose, so I'm going to go with the Jags.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars win, but I think it is going to be a close game, actually. I just think the Browns are too talented of a team to.
I mean, the Browns are going to have
overall.
to bounce back this week in some ways.
So I could see them winning it. It is. I gotta figure out. I didn't pick like one upset. I don't think. So that's kind of concerning. I feel like
you got some games left to do.
But I gave my picks already, like on the radio show. I cannot back away from them. I cannot back away from my picks.
Is that so?
I gotta honor my picks.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to honor
my loyal listeners to the Sports Scoop.
So yeah, Nathan has the Jags, too.
And I'm taking the Jags. I see the Browns starting out 0-2. I don't see the Jags having that same, I guess.
The Jags, there's too much talent.
Yeah.
Trevor, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville's going to win.
We have a sweep with Jacksonville. By the way, Brian Cashman took the Commanders the last game. Another interesting line.
Oh, yeah.
Rams at Cardinals. The Cardinals are favored.
This is the game
by
actually.
A point in this game. And that doesn't. I know the Rams are so injured. They are so injured. But even with all the injuries, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, they were amazing last week, and took one of the top 5 teams in football to overtime on Sunday Night Football. The Rams have always dominated the Cardinals. So even though they're injured, it's like I still don't understand why the Cardinals. This is the one game I'm actually not sure who I'm going to pick yet. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. Because this game is just very confusing for me. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, Nate.
Yeah. This is my. I guess
Cardinals looked good last week with their offense.
I guess this is my upset. I don't know.
You're taking the Cards?
It's not, no, I'm taking the. Well, because the Rams are underdogs.
Oh, the Rams are underdogs.
I took the Rams last week. It didn't work, but I really like what I saw. I mean, like you mentioned.
Imagine once they get healthy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I still feel confident they're going to win the division. I do. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah, so, I mean, taking the Lions to overtime and everything, I mean, I think the Lions are obviously much better than Arizona. I think a lot of people are buying into Arizona. They almost beat the Bills last week, obviously, and I've been higher on them than most, actually. Like, last year, they were a really feisty team, and I think they'll continue to be that this year. I don't see them being much better. They beat the Steelers, obviously. So I'm gonna go with the Rams. That's my upset. I wasn't thinking about it as an upset because I don't know why they're favorite. I mean, I could see why Vegas is very high on the Cardinals now after their performance and covering the spread. I think a lot of people bet on the Cardinals in Week 1, and that's going to continue here. But I'm going to go with the Rams to pull off the upset. It's kind of crazy to say, but
Well, I have the Cardinals, and here's why. Rams like you guys said, they took the lines to overtime, which is a real cool accomplishment. But I feel like they're gonna back down and say, hey, we got the Cardinals. We got a little easier stretch than we did before. Cardinals are gonna come out fighting. They barely lost to the Bills. I know they wanted that game. They were up.
They came out fighting since the end of last year. Since
they were
Kyler
way
came
up.
back.
Yeah, so they're gonna. I feel like they're gonna come into this game with more to play, and I think that they're gonna come with the win because of that. And I think the Rams will have a big turnaround after starting out 0-2. But for now, I think the Cardinals take this dub. So.
Well, Brian Cashman also has the Rams. This is the one game I need more information. I need to hear some things. So who I take right now, I might change. I won't change my mind for the picks, but I may, for like betting purposes, I may change my mind. Trying to look here. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rams. This feels like a Joe lunch bucket kind of taking the Rams here, but yeah, the Rams. Stafford, it's just he was so good last week, and and they always have had the Cardinals number for some reason. So I'm gonna stick with the Rams.
Yeah, it could be a really high scoring game because
I wouldn't be shocked. This line doesn't make much sense, but.
I mean,
Cardinals.
I could see it because the Cardinals did play so well last week, and the Rams obviously they're so, like you mentioned, Jake, so injured right now. Offensive line is a mess.
The Cards' defense is horrific.
Yeah, it is bad.
No.
That's why I'm saying it should be high scoring, but I think the Rams.
What's the toe? I took the over in the Buffalo Cards game last week. That was the easiest over ever.
Oh yeah.
Over 40. Wait, over 47 and a half. I might take that again.
That's the over under.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy, but yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it's high scoring.
But yeah, I could easily see the Cardinals winning because I think they are a decent team. I think Kyler Murray is very underappreciated. I know there's all that, talk. It was funny about how he's not, studying the game plans and everything, and he's
Kyler
playing
Murray's,
video games.
Yeah,
and
he's
stuff.
such a talent though. That he figures things out. Oh boy, the Bengals 425 game. Bengals at Chiefs. The Bengals. I know that they don't come out good in week 1 usually, or at least last year that was the case. They didn't come out good early in the season. But Burrow had an injury during camp. There was no injury of note for Joe Burrow during camp. Now the Bengals, and I'm starting to wonder if Zach Taylor is kind of a fraud. But it's just week 1, so this is like an overreaction. But is Zach Taylor kind of a fraud? Because you got to help. Joe Burrow should be healthy. But they lose their offensive coordinator. Now their offense is garbage. Now I know they didn't have T. Higgins, but that shouldn't matter too much. A receiver being out should not matter that much. They're 6-point underdogs. I'll be taking the Bengals with the spread. But the Chiefs, I can't trust how the Bengals offense looks. I mean, that was just horrific last week. I'm going to take the Chiefs. We talked about the Chiefs a lot last week. But yeah, what? I'm curious what you guys think about the Bengals right now. Because I was so high on them coming this season, healthy Burrow. But I did hear... So my dad was telling me about something like I didn't watch the Patriots game, but he was shaking his hand a lot.
Yeah.
And he did have a hand surgery
They showed something
right?
where he was picking up a Gatorade ball and he was struggling to pick it up with his hand. It was crazy, but yeah, this is a interesting game because the Bengals are very confident. They're saying some comments. I can't remember who it was, but was saying that we're the best team in the AFC. They lost to the Patriots and they still said that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I love the confidence, but you have to prove it consistently. And they got injuries. Wide receiver Jamar Chase, did he play? I didn't even see. He didn't.
I mean, he's causing all sorts of drama.
Yeah, he is.
And T. Higgins, he was.
I don't think he's playing this week.
Yeah, he was out. He had a hamstring, and he was
People were saying in Cincinnati,
he was
saying he's faking it. That's ridiculous. I hate when fans do that kind of stuff.
So I actually I think the Chiefs are gonna be motivated by that. I think they see those comments and it's what are you talking about? We're clearly the best team, and they are the best team in the AFC until dethrones them. So I'm gonna have the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs cover. I think they cover, and I think this could be a dominant performance by the Chiefs, actually.
Wouldn't shock anybody.
Because
but
there's a lot going against the Bengals, and it would be an 0-2 start again.
I mean, are the Bengals like? How worried should we be about them right now? Like on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, I had them as the second best team in the AFC behind the Chiefs and ahead of the Ravens. So I'm pretty worried.
Yeah.
Based on my expectations.
Also, I'm going to go against you guys. I have the Bengals just because I know they start out with a dud week 1 sometimes. Like, they have a tendency to do that. I think Burrow, he's too much of a winner to start 0-2. And while I love the Chiefs, I think they're going to be, obviously, the Super Bowl favorite. They always have, a couple games where they just lose. And they whenever, they
The Chiefs are going to lose games.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think this is going to be one of them.
The Bengals should have the quarterback. They have, they have a good defensive coordinator. They have a good enough team to match up with them. Yeah, I can't pick against the Chiefs. I'm going to be taking the Bengals to cover, most likely. Like, I'm going to be rooting for the Bengals. But, yeah, it's just – it's tough to not go against. And Brian Cashman also has the Chiefs. So, last two, Jake Bell trying to get a one-up on us.
Yeah.
Then the next game, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos. 2.5-point favorites on the road. Nate? Steelers? Russell, what'd you think of Justin Fields?
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. I thought he did a good job overall. No turnovers. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Limit turnovers. No, there were a couple plays, to sacks. There was a couple he could avoid. He said that in his post-game press conference, too. There were some he could have avoided. Overall, he did really good in that game, I think. And there is a question now with Russell Wilson. Like, if he's healthy, I don't think he's healthy right now, but if he starts getting healthy, and Justin Fields has a really good game in this game, which could happen. I mean, it is a really good environment, a really tough environment to play in for the opponents at Mile High Stadium. The Broncos aren't a good team. They're not a good defense. So I think the Steelers win and cover, but it would be so Steelers to lose one of these games. But the question will be, like, what if Justin Fields goes crazy in this game? And then Russell Wilson's healthy now, I assume they would go with Russell Wilson, but it doesn't look good at all. Because I think we all agree he was guaranteed the job when he signed with the Steelers, the starting job.
There's already ever since this whole calf injury thing, and the drama started from week 1 already. So.
Oh yeah.
Brian Cashman has the Steelers. I do want to say, about this whole quarterback situation. Like I said this last week, not high on Justin Fields. But if he can avoid the turnovers and take care of the ball and not force throws, I don't trust him to read the field. But if he can actually like not turn the ball over as much, obviously the ceiling is higher with Fields, with his athleticism. And I thought Wilson was more of a fit for the offense. The big question will be, if it ever comes down to, will we start Russ and Fields if they're healthy? It depends on what happens. But, like, is Russell Wilson's ability in the pocket and the ability to deliver accurate passes, because Wilson is much more accurate, is that more significant to have than maybe having Fields, who's a little less accurate but provides the athleticism? And I think that's a wait and see kind of thing, because if Fields is going to be inaccurate, but if he can not turn the ball over, it's easy to argue that Fields should remain the starter. But this is going to be I have an opinion on this game, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
So I do have the Steelers winning. Like you guys said, this could easily be a game where the Steelers just lose because of how they've been my entire life. But in terms of the quarterback situation, I mean, neither quarterback wows me. Like, I'm not. Yeah. I don't mind Justin Fields.
No, they're not supposed to wow.
Yeah,
you.
It's just like
no.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just not the biggest. I just don't think Fields is the future. I feel like you'd accomplish more if you start him, because he's not guaranteed a contract after this year. If Russell Wilson was healthy the full year, I truly felt that the plan was to have Fields sit behind Wilson, then Fields go back with the Steelers on a 1-year deal, like a prove-it deal, so that he can start next year and try to earn a bigger contract. But that obviously Fields is now gonna have more exposure. It's just I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the room right now. I just don't think any of them are gonna be a
better
long-term
than what
solution.
it was.
It is better than what it was. I'll give them credit for that. But
it's not a Super Bowl contending
correct.
team.
Yeah, we've been delaying the inevitable about who's gonna replace Big Ben. We thought Pickett was going to be a bet. In reality, it turned out to be Kevin Colbert trying to give the fans something to root for.
Yeah.
He wasn't
that was just a legacy pick.
Yeah, he wasn't Omar Khan's guy. That's a fact. If he was Omar Khan's guy, he wouldn't have traded him going into year 3. So, I guess we'll see what will happen. I mean, I feel like they're going to start Russell Wilson eventually just because I feel like the Steelers are a team that
I think there's no doubt we see too because Fields in my mind, like just from knowing Fields and watching him, he's going to have a bad game. He's going to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
He's going to be careless. Unless Arthur Smith has been calling a physical, conservative game.
Yeah.
And if we continue to do that and have success and score points, and I mean, we looked competent on offense last week. I know we had no touchdowns. That's going to be the key, but I don't see I don't see Arthur Smith taming Fields for every single game. I don't see it happening. And you're gonna need that pocket veteran guy.
Yeah, and for the Steelers, like they're a team that, is very stubborn and very prideful, like, we stick with these coaches. They're gonna be a type of team that's like injuries aren't gonna be the reason why you lose your starting job. And I think that's they're gonna either gonna honor Russell Wilson and him being what should have been the starter.
I think
originally.
if Fields keeps winning though, they're gonna have no choice. But once Fields struggles, then
so that's just how I see it.
Like I said, I'm not high on Fields as a passer. And Arthur Smith I think is competent, but what really concerns me about him is we're throwing the ball to third string tight ends and third string running backs, Cordero Patterson and Michael Pruitt, and the offense isn't really dynamic, but it's competent, and I think Fields' running ability makes it a little more dynamic. It's gonna be conservative because that's how Tomlin likes things, but it's competent. It's enough where I think for a lot of games we won't have to hopefully like look at this offense and like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
But the quarterback situation makes it tough. As for this game, I think this is where we see. I'm saying it now. I said it last week, but I think this is where we see Justin Fields struggle. I think in Denver, Sean Payton, Bo Nix's debut, and the Steelers. I feel like every time the Steelers go to Denver, they play bad. Denver's just a rough environment.
Mm-hmm.
Tomlin on the road is a favorite. They had a big win last week. I'm going with Sean Payton and the Broncos.
Ooh.
I'm going with the Broncos.
I went with them
upset.
last week. They failed me a little bit, but the Steelers, you just don't know what's going to happen.
And the scary thing is, Tomlin owns rookie QBs.
Yeah.
But with Sean Payton and Bo Nix, it's a little different. I think Bo Nix is going to develop a little quicker. I think his ceiling's a lot lower. But yeah, we talked. Well, we had to do a long one on the Steelers there because we'll talk more about them extensively, at some point. All right, Sunday Night Football. We got 2 games left. Bears at Texans. 6.5. Bears won last week. Caleb Williams did not look all that good, and yes, I think people expected him to be the savior right away. I mean, I don't think I expected him to be the savior, but I expected him to be really pretty good right away. You have to remember he has a defensive coach. Thing is, like, people compare him to Patrick Mahomes, and I think he has that kind of talent. But if you remember, and the thing was, Caleb Williams was erratic in college at times. So was Patrick Mahomes. They both put up big numbers, but were erratic. But Patrick Mahomes had a year to sit behind Andy Reid and Alex Smith. Caleb Williams is being thrown into the fire. I am hopeful, and I feel that Caleb's gonna have a better game. But the Texans at home, really good football team. Their secondary is a little suspect, but and the Bears, I think it's a close game. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears pulled off the upset, but I'm going with the Bears here. I mean, the way they won last year was like the Steelers, like no offense, all defense and special teams. It was crazy. The Texans, they're all their new guys, their new additions, Mixon, Diggs, all look great.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the Bears or the Texans. I'm sorry.
This could be a week 1 overreaction, but I think the Texans win and cover. I really didn't like what I wasn't as high on Caleb Williams as most people either because, like you mentioned, some of his erratic play.
It's going to take time
And-
for him to, especially if he doesn't have the right offensive coach.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also he did this in college too a lot, trying to make the big play instead of just taking
And
the
that's what
wide
Mahomes
open
had
guy.
to learn
Yeah.
too. I think Caleb is going to be a star. I think it's just going to take longer.
Yeah, I just don't
superstar
know
than
for this
people
game
think.
if he's gonna be able to do
Yeah.
that. So I'm gonna take the Texans. Now this could be one of those. This could be one of those letdown games too, where the Texans have a big road win against Indianapolis, a hard-fought win, and they're going home to play. But I think there's a lot of hype around the Bears, so I don't know if that'll be an issue. But I think the Texans win pretty easily. They're the better team overall. Although the talent that the Bears have now is really good, especially around Caleb Williams. That's why I think his development could be accelerated just because of all the talent, Keenan Allen, and the running backs, and what's his name from Carolina? Used to be on Carolina.
He has the weapons. Yeah, for sure.
Who got paid earlier? So,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna
DJ
take
Moore.
DJ Moore. I'm gonna take the Texans in the points.
Yeah, I'm taking the Texans too.
We know this
Yeah.
guy's the biggest Caleb
I am
Williams
a
fan.
Yeah, I'm a big.
He's a huge Caleb Williams fan.
Well, yeah. So like, I'm definitely taking the Texans. Like, not the biggest Caleb Williams guy, but that's not the reason why I'm taking the Texans. I just feel like there's too much competency, which we haven't been able to say in a while. There's just too much competency in the Texans building to lose to a rookie quarterback in their second professional game.
D'Amico, defensive coach.
whether
He's done
that
a great
guy's
job.
whether that guy's the #1 overall pick or not, I just don't see the Texans dropping this game at home.
I might be taking a shot on the Bears to cover. I explain this on my podcast. Like I will bet a little bit of money, but where I do most of my bets is like in a league where you put in money and like if you come in the top 10, your bets are like worth points.
Yeah.
So I might do that. Take the Bears. I probably won't bet money on the Bears, but we'll see what happens with that. I like them to cover, but Texans win. And then finally Monday Night Football, Eagles at Falcons. Eagles they lived up to the hype, especially offensively. Though the turnovers are an issue with Hurts, and I have concerns about the head coach. But Saquon Barkley looked like the free agent signing of the decade in Brazil. That game was just so weird with the field and everything.
Yeah.
And the Falcons, Kirk Cousins, Tomlin in the Steelers secondary made Kirk Cousins look pretty old and pretty bad. But I do like the direction of the Falcons with their coach and coordinator. I think the Falcons get it figured out. What are your guys' thoughts on both these teams? I usually look at him. But
I know,
why are you
yeah,
looking at me?
I know. You looked
Yeah.
over at Jake, so I was just gonna. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think the Eagles. I picked it last week because I bought into it a little bit, but I didn't know Saquon Barkley was gonna go crazy like he did because I think a lot of people have been a lot higher on him than I've been, just because I don't know. Just overall, I just think he's a little bit over. I think he's a really good player, but I think just a little bit overrated. But
Who is?
Saquon Barkley, just a little bit. I think he got paid a little bit too much.
Bro, he's the only running back in the league, in my opinion, who was the face of the franchise.
Oh, yeah, he was.
and had to
That's
carry
true.
that offense.
Yeah.
And now he's just a piece of a very talented offense.
Yeah, I really like his role in this offense. I think he will have a really good year though, for sure. I think he's still a top 5 running back. I just think he's not 1 or 2, like a lot of people have him. So I like the Eagles in this game, but I do think the Falcons get it turned around a little bit. Their offense was dreadful last week.
It's gonna figure itself out. I don't know how long it's
And
gonna take.
Kirk Cousins did not look good, but they got Drake London,
Yeah.
right? They got Bijan Robinson. They got Kyle Pitts, who I think a lot of people trash, but I think he's still.
Oh yeah, he's
He's a good, very talented, very good tight end who showed a little bit, got a touchdown against the Steelers last week. So I'm going to go with the Eagles, but I think the Falcons make it close. What's the line? Is it like?
It's like 6.5.
Yeah, I think the Falcons. I think the Falcons cover, but I think the Eagles win that one.
Yeah, I have the Eagles as well. It's just coming off a really big win. I just don't think they're going to lay an egg on the Falcons. I think the Falcons have a better chance of losing the game themselves than the Eagles actually beating them, just because, like you guys said, with the Kirk Cousins not looking all that sharp and all that, I think it's going to be tough for them to win after what they displayed last week. And I just think the Eagles they always are a team that starts off hot. I think it's going to continue with this game here. So
Sound like the 60 minutes thing you're doing. Like the clock ticking.
I'm Scott Pelley. I want to take the Falcons. I really do. I think the Eagles' defense is going to be better, but it's going to take some time. Yeah, Kirk. Monday night Kirk. That's what I can't. Monday night Kirk Cousins. You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take the Eagles. I'll take the fall with you guys on this one if the Falcons win. Well, this has been a long episode as usual. Thank you all so much for watching. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Give us your biggest overreaction from week 1. Your biggest prediction, an overreaction from week 1 in the comments if you're interested in commenting. So thank you all so much. I'm Pirate Peyton. This is Nathan Shivens, Jake Bell. We'll see you all probably next week.
Yep.